Am I audible? उपासना?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
ओके, अभी थोड़ा सा इसको 1 मिनट इसका आवाज भी बढ़ाता हूँ। हाँ तो आवाज है, लास्ट तक है। हाँ
हाँ जी सर, ठीक है, एकदम क्लियर है।
क्लियर है।
हाँ जी।
एंड हाँ अनम्यूट कर रहा हूँ।
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vibhu.
नमस्कार मैम, नमस्कार.
मैं अभी कॉलेज में ही हूँ, निकली नहीं.
अच्छा.
हाँ, two from here and then.
अच्छा, good.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Upasana, how many participants have joined so far?
There are about 87,
87.
but we have received registration from about 230 participants.
उपासना ऐसा
हाँ
करेंगे.
जी, ma'am.
Do it on live streaming also. Dhanesh, you are there, beta? Technical team.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the YouTube live streaming and put it in the WhatsApp group so that in case some of them have not got the Zoom link, then today's session we can put it on YouTube.
Exactly.
And
I've
then,
already shared the YouTube link in the group.
Okay, that's great. So all of you, those who are watching on YouTube and are registered, don't worry, we will be taking you on board. And today's feedback link, Dhanesh, ensure that if they are not on WhatsApp or on Zoom, then we should get that info and try to sort that.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Right.
Dhanesh, when I will say that, please lighting the lamp. Just 1 minute, you will keep that slide.
Yes, sir.
Good. बार-बार हम प्रिंसिपल सर का मैसेज तो आया था, अभी ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं.
Ani, I just talked to him. He will join.
बख्शी सर.
हाँ, he should also.
Kissing sir will be joining soon.
I'm already here. I'm here only.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon and welcome, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Good afternoon and welcome, Bakshi, sir. I think he's still joining in the process.
Good afternoon, sir. Bakshi, sir. Namaskar.
Good afternoon, Bakshi, sir. आप unmute करना पड़ेगा. We cannot hear.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar. ji, Namaskar.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
प्रिंसिपल सर ने भी कर लिया ज्वाइन.
Sir, good afternoon.
गुड आफ्टरनून प्रिंसिपल सर. सर ऑडियो आ रही है? नहीं. आई थिंक सर आपकी ऑडियो नहीं आ रही है.
Good afternoon, sir. Principal, sir. सर आपका प्रिंसिपल सर का कैमरा ऑन नहीं है.
हाँ, एक बार हुआ था.
He's joining. He's already joined.
I'm calling him. I think just one more minute required. Principal sir is changing his system.
Okay.
So good afternoon, everyone, and please, participants, there is no need of writing your name and institution name because this is not how we are recording your attendance. It is being automatically done. Once you are logged in Zoom, it is being automatically done. And those who are on YouTube, if they have registered late or are still in the process of registering, don't worry, we will be taking care of that part. So today you can watch on YouTube. From tomorrow onwards, it will be only on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Principal Sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Vibhu. Thank you.
नमस्कार.
जरा दूसरा सिस्टम ऑफ कर देते.
हाँ जी सर, हाँ जी सर.
Sir, we already have Professor R.K. Singh and Professor A.K. Bakshi with us. So,
Good afternoon. सिंह साहब कैसे हैं?
दुआएं हैं. आप कैसे हैं डॉक्टर साहब?
बस ठीक ठाक.
बढ़िया, बहुत अच्छा.
I think Dr. Vibhu, we can start.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected chief guest of the event, Professor R.K. Singh sir, Principal sir, Bakshi sir, Bimal ma'am, my dear BB colleague, and my dear participant. I, Dr. Bihu Prasad Sahu, welcome you all to the National Faculty Development Program on Academic Report Writing and Research Methodology and Interdisciplinary Approach, organized by Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center and Business Economics Department, Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, University of Delhi. Before we begin, I request you all to join for the virtual lighting of the lamp. Let us remember the Almighty to bless us with knowledge and wisdom. Dharmesh, please lighting the lamp. Thanks, Ganesh. This 1 week FDP from 4th to 10th March will help the participant to learn the basic of research methodology and academic report writing. We'll be having session on introduction to research and identifying research gap, research design, review of literature, plagiarism, referencing, citation, with focus on Mendeley software. Introduction to SPSS, data cleaning and management and basic data analysis techniques. Sessions are also planned on how to write good quality research paper and how to publish in Scopus and Web of Science journals. We are glad to announce that we have already received participation for more than 230 faculty, scholars, and students from 21 states in India. This is our module 1 for the research methodology and academic report writing. We also plan to have more modules of advanced level in coming months. I am pleased to inform you that this FDP is organized by GAD-TLC and Business Economics Department of SGTB Khalsa College. GAD-TLC is a leading center of Ministry of Education, Government of India under the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teacher and Learning since 2016. The BA Honors Business Economics course was started by our principal, Professor Jaspinder Singh, in the year 2007. This course has flourished in the past 13 years in our colleges. Professional education of the experienced faculty, enthusiasm and hard work on the part of the students has produced remarkable results every year from the inception. This course involves commerce and economics subject in order to produce futuristic leaders, efficient workforce and budding entrepreneurs. Business economics at SDTB Khalsa College is one of the most sought after course at University of Delhi. Our department is proud to have university toppers for past 3 consecutive years, and our students are placed in top companies and big 4 companies, and also pursuing higher education like I am Ahmedabad, I am Bangalore, I am Calcutta, and I am Lucknow, etc. We organize many events and seminars for students and faculty and hope to keep it going by organizing many more such events in future. It is my honor to introduce our principal sir, Professor Jaswinder Singh. He is one who started GAD-TLC and Business Economics Department in our college. He has been the guiding light and a source of inspiration for all of us. Professor Jaswinder Singh, Principal SDTB Khalsa College and Director Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, is a renowned academician and a commendable administrator. He has been a co-principal investigator EPG Pathshala project awarded by the UGC to develop e-content for 16 papers for post-graduation. He has developed 6 massive open online courses in economics hosted on SWAYAM platform, SWAYAM portal of the Ministry of Education, Government of India. He is the member of the UGC committee to review the autonomous status of colleges and member of advisory committee, UGC nominee 2013 awards. He has been convener of the UGC committee to draft undergraduate courses for the implementation of CBCS choice-based credit system in the year 2015. He is also member of the Standing Committee of Academic Council, University of Delhi for 1994 to 1998 to advise and decide the academic hardship of the students regarding admission and examination. We heartily welcome you, sir, and invite you to address this virtual gathering. Sir, audible nahi.
Thank you, Dr. Bibhu Prasad and Dr. Vimal Raj for starting this program. Let me at the outside welcome Professor R.K. Singh, who is joining us for the first time, I think under the GAD-TLC programs. Professor R.K. Singh, as we know that he is the head of the Department of Commerce and also the Dean Commerce and Business. We are also privileged to have Professor A.K. Bakshi, the veteran of University of Delhi and the prominent personality in the area of the training of teachers, especially across all the disciplines in the use of the ICT tools. And also we are privileged because Professor Bakshi has been the core mentor of all of us, including Dr. Bibhu Prasad, Dr. Vimal, myself, Dr. R.P. Singh and others. And it is he who encouraged us to train so many teachers in our endeavor to create the content which should be available to all, not only the teachers but the students also. And it has been made possible with this guidance. I am also grateful to Dr. Vimal because she is an excellent teacher in her own subject, that is chemistry, and she has designed many courses and done very successfully, especially the MOOC programs dedicated in the subject of chemistry. And I think we are pioneer in designing the ARPAT programs and then offering them on to the students. Professor R.K. Singh, we know that he is not only a professor and a teacher in University of Delhi, but currently he is engaged in many institutions where he is providing his scholarship so that those institutions can benefit. And he has just returned from a visit, and we captured him in the sense that we requested him to be the chief guest today. I'm also grateful to all my colleagues here in this program, Dr. Amit and uh, Professor Sangeeta from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, who shall be the resource person in this. Professor Bhanumurthy, who is the chairperson of our center. Let me also welcome all the participants, which are close to, at the moment, I think their number is quite high. This is, I think, 170. Plus, maybe more will join just now. This program, which Dr. Bibu and Dr. Vimal have designed, has very specific, it is very specifically focused on the academic report writing and research methodology. I think it is not only important to do good research, but to present that research in a systematic form so that it is understood and it can be placed in the comparative scenario. That is more important. And writing, we know the steps. We know that these days there are no boundaries as far as the individual subjects is concerned, and the approach has to be interdisciplinary. For instance, if a person is doing research in economics or commerce, he will have to use a lot of mathematics and the computer programs to process the results. At the same time, he has to be very, very clear about what the role the technology can play and what kind of technology is available to us. Not only in the general research, but also when we are writing, let us say on agriculture or on industry, we should understand how the technology functions, what are the alternatives available, how they scientifically function, and what are the possibilities. Only then we can make some economic analysis of that. And Dr. Bibu Prasad, when he discussed this with me, I was feeling little happy that he is thinking that this kind of program should not be only open to the teachers, but I think the students should also be involved in this training of the research programs. For instance, in BA Honors Business Economics, we do ask the students to write a project. We ask them, there is a paper on some preliminary research report writings. And also it gives a lot of leverage to the students when they apply for admissions abroad. But before that, I think the teachers should also know that many of us join afresh immediately from post-graduation after completing the NET. But many of us may not be knowing how to write a good research report, how to access the data, how to process it, and then also how to perform certain experiments which are so crucial in the research projects. So therefore, writing a research report, explaining the methodology, and then, also, in understanding how important it is that when we are referring to the other closely related fields, how we should acknowledge their research and put it in such a way that it puts us in a comparative picture. Not, it should not look like a plagiarized or a picked up version of the same reports. And this is, earlier it was not possible. Even though we make a summary of the research, but when we put it in the research article, even if we write the name of the person, but it gets plagiarized. The results are like this. So writing a good report and using the tools to understand how far we are different from that and what is the idea of originality. The research project, merely duplicating it will not serve the purpose. But I think some innovative ideas, even from the existing research, can be there, but we must acknowledge it properly in our research reports. Perhaps Dr. Bibu will allot me a session where we will be discussing these issues at that time. But here, in the inaugural session. I'm really privileged. Khalsa College and the Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, which has built up its reputation under the leadership of Professor Bakshi and Professor Banmurthy. Of course, with the work Dr. Vimal and myself have contributed, it is significant. But I think we also have a special responsibility to take our colleagues along with and do a good research. I once again express my gratitude to, especially to Professor R.K. Singh, so that he can guide us further, that how we can, encourage the economics, commerce, business economics, and social sciences students to go for a good research projects. Thank you very much, Dr. Vimal, Dr. Bibhu Prasad, for giving me this opportunity to
Thank you, sir.
give the inaugural address. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again, sir, for your wonderful words of wisdom. You are our source of inspiration, and we thank you for your unflinching support for the BB department. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Bimal Ram, ma'am, the one without whom it would not be possible to organize this FDP. She is the project head and joint director, GAD-TLC, coordinator, National Resource Center of Chemistry of MHRD, and the deputy director, Center for E-Learning, SGTB Khalsa College, University of Delhi. Under her leadership, GAD-TLC is on its mission of training teacher and is achieving great heights. Dr. Rar is among us the pioneer in implementing ICT in higher education in the country and is a tech-savvy faculty at SGTB Khalsa College. She is a leading woman entrepreneur in the field of e-learning at national level. She is now heading three centers at college which have national level projects. She has authored more than 350 e-modules in 4-quadrant format in various corporate and government projects. E-learning project worth around 20 crores completed and ongoing under her administrative and technical coordination, and as a principal investigator in most of them, including EPG Pathshala project of UGC for 6 subjects. She is actively involved in policy formulation and implementation through national level committee at UGC and AICT. We heartily welcome you, ma'am, and invite you to say a few words about GAD-TLC.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bibhu, for kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Professor R.K. Singh, Head Department of Commerce, Professor A.K. Bakshi, Vice Chancellor, PDM University and Chairman of our centers, Dr. Jaswinder Singh, Principal, SCTB Khalsa College and Director, GAD-TLC, my colleague, Dr. Bibhu Sahu from Department of Business Economics in my own college, other members of the organizing team, my technical team, and above all my dear colleagues who have joined from different disciplines in this 1-week National Faculty Development Program, which is academic report writing and research methodology with an interdisciplinary approach. So I welcome each and everyone on behalf of Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, which is located at SGTB Khalsa College, my own institute, at University of Delhi. And this is a center of Ministry of Education under the very prestigious Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya Nation Mission on Teachers and Teaching Scheme. And at our center, we are now doing all various activities, and we are seeking blessings from Bharat Ratna Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya ji, under whose name the scheme has been named at the central government level, and at my college level we are seeking blessings from Guru Angad Dev ji, the second of the 10 Sikh Gurus. We have state-of-art training lab as well as studio and the technical team and the expertise which we have developed more than now 50 MOOCs for the SWAYAM platform, and we are also doing technical guidance to many of the projects, and if you are keen, we are ready to help you in your these requirements, which are like video recording, editing, and the similar thing. The center was inaugurated in July 2016 by the then Honorable HRD Minister Smriti Jubin Irani. So few words of the inaugural ceremony.
आज मैं विशेष रूप से बधाई देती हूँ प्रोफेसर बख्शी को, विमल जी को, जिन्होंने बहुत मेहनत करके इस सेंटर को जीवित रूप में आपके सामने प्रस्तुत किया। ये एक टीचर की ललक उसके उत्साह का उदाहरण है कि भारत सरकार ने दिसंबर 2014 को माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के हाथों पंडित मदन मोहन मालवीय नेशनल मिशन को राष्ट्र के सामने प्रस्तुत किया, लेकिन उसमें हमने एक शर्त रखी कि जो भी इस प्रोजेक्ट से जुड़े वो स्वयं एक अनोखा टीचिंग लर्निंग का प्रस्ताव लेकर आए, और उस प्रस्ताव में जो अनोखा हो अथवा वो प्रस्ताव अगर शिक्षकों के माध्यम से आए तो विशेष रूप से हमारा सहयोग ऐसे प्रोत्साहित शिक्षकों को जो दूरगामी परिणाम देख सकते हैं, ऐसे शिक्षकों को समर्थन करने का हमारा प्रयास रहेगा।
And all this we are doing is because of a massive team. It is not the individual efforts of 1, 2, 3, 4, but more than 2,000 teachers have now associated in a contribution into e-learning projects that we had, and I am thankful to all of them. And special thanks goes to Professor A.K. Bakshi, under whose leadership we have evolved this entire center, and Dr. Jaswinder Singh, who has provided all the support and ground level functionality into each and every sphere of the functioning. So with this we are taking, and now we realize actually what words of Smriti Irani, जो दूरगामी उन्होंने बोला, दूरगामी उस समय हमें नहीं लगा था, but now in the corona time we really feel that yes, since 1 decade what we have been doing and envisioning that yes, as teachers we have to empower ourselves in the various tools and prepare quality content, which also forms the base for quality research. So today I am happy and congratulate Dr. Bibu also to be starting this FDP, where as teachers we'll try to learn what tools we can use and the methodology for the academic report writing and the research. So many of my colleagues who are like thinking whether we should start research, how to go about, I'm sure your answers will be queried in this particular FDP. And the special regards and gratitude to Professor R.K. Singh, who has joined in this inaugural event as chief guest. So truly delighted to have you, sir, amongst us in this inaugural event. And I welcome all of you on behalf of my entire advisory committee, Professor A.K. Bakshi, who is the chairman, Professor K.V. Bhanumurthy, who is vice chairman. We have other eminent academicians, Professor N.K. Chadda, Professor Aditya Bhattacharya, Dr. R.P. Singh, and my principal and myself, we are the executive heads. And we also had a share of journey together with the massive team while developing the EPG Pathshala content. And there we realized that yes, as teachers, we have to upgrade ourselves in many fronts, whether it is the digital tools or the pedagogy or the subject. And we have successfully executed EPG Pathshala projects, developed 89 courses, each course having 35 to 40 modules in a 4-quadrant approach. So more than 3,500 modules only for this particular project. And out of these, 42 MOOCs were rolled out in the first phase when Government of India launched the MOOCs on SWAYAM platform. At the PG level, there were 63 MOOCs in total. Out of the 63, 42 contribution is our. And here I will also pay regards to Professor Ved Prakash sir, who has mentored in the EPG Pathshala and the MOOCs project. And all of you can get these content available on InflipNet and use it in your own context in the teaching learning, and also provide it to your student, not only from our 6 subjects, but now so much has been done in other subjects. And the next phase is also getting revived, where much more MOOC and the content is planned to be developed. And I'm sure all of you will be actively contributing into these processes. I'm also happy to share we have also co-designed the flagship program of Ministry of Education, which is faculty induction program, which is now compulsory for every new inductee when we join as teachers in higher education. So this 1 month program is there, and I am thankful to Ministry of Education for putting my institution name on this very, very important document. And as a reward of the work that as a team we are doing, and I'm happy that my team is growing every day, many others are joining. So we got this National Resource Center of Chemistry, where we have the mandate of preparing MOOCs for teachers training, that is ARPIT program, annual refresher program in teaching. And I'm happy to share the statistics that last year we have been running this 3 times in a row. And last year, out of 12,485 candidates who appeared for examination in 42 ARPIT courses, our chemistry course is on the number 1 in terms of the number of enrollments, the candidates who have appeared. So 1966 teachers have appeared in the examination, out of which 1908 have qualified the examination. And this is the best statistics out of the 42 courses. And this time also examination. And I'm happy to inform those who are enrolled in ARPIT, and please, all of you may be enrolled in different ARPIT. The last date for examination enrollment has been extended to 10th March. But please don't wait till the last date. It is always better that you complete the registration in process. And that ARPIT can be done over and above these FDP for your CAS requirements as well. Another important contribution we have been able to do in the transformation of education system, drop by drop we are trying to change each and every classroom. And here you all can also participate, come as a group, and you can take the teachers e-kit for entire course. And this is where you can also earn APIs for your promotional requirements, and because this fits into the e-content 4-quadrant approach. So I welcome each one of you in this National Online Faculty Development Program on academic report writing and research methodology. And I extend thanks to all the resource persons who will be joining, and we will be all there. And about the projects and all, we will be telling you details. So, and Dr. Bibu, thanks for designing this course, and I'm sure we will be taking it further. And whatever queries you have, don't worry, we'll be here virtually to solve, and it will be a new experience. So some of those who are joining for the first time in our programs, we will do the hand holding, don't worry. So everything will be explained. And I welcome each one of you again in this virtual co-learning journey. I'm sure you will learn from resource persons, we'll also learn from resource persons, and we'll also learn from you, because if any problem you are facing, we'll try to solve and get you done. And the special thanks again goes to our chief guest today, Professor R.K. Singh. And I will not say Professor A.K. Bakshi as any guest or chief guest or guest of honor. He is our mentor and chairman. So welcome, sir, for giving your time in this inaugural event. So over to you, Bibu. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your unwavering commitment and dedication. We thank you for your continuous support. Thank you once again, ma'am. Thank you. It is my privilege to have with us Professor A.K. Bakshi, the founder, Vice Chancellor of PDM University, Bahadurgarh, Haryana. He has been the Executive Director of Territory Education Commission, Mauritius, a post equivalent to that Chairman UGC of India, UGC in India, and also Vice Chancellor of UP Rajesh Tandon Open University, Allahabad. Professor Bakshi has held the prestigious Sri Shankar Lal Chair of Chemistry in the University of Delhi for more than 2 decades. A double gold medalist and PhD of Delhi University, he is the author, co-author of more than 170 research and education article, etc. And one patent, many books and e-books. He was felicitated 2 times for distinctive and outstanding contribution to education, including e-transformation of the University of Delhi by the former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. We welcome you, sir, and invite you to address this virtual gathering.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bibhu Sahu, for your very kind words of introduction. Esteemed Professor R.K. Singh, the chief guest for today's event, Dr. Jaswinder Singh, Principal SGTB Khalsa College, and Dr. Vimal Rar, Joint Director and Project Head, Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, and last but not the least, dear participants from all over the country. It's indeed a great pleasure and a privilege to welcome you all to this national level faculty development program on a very important theme, and that is academic report writing and research methodology. As you know, this is being done jointly by the Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center and the Business Economics Department of SGTB Khalsa College. Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, as you all know, has been created under Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching. The focus of this central scheme of the Government of India is to empower teachers and their teaching, so that they can contribute significantly in achieving the goals of higher education. I'm very happy that today this faculty development program is being organized on something related to research. You will all agree that research is a very important activity of a higher education institution. Unfortunately, we all teachers have 2 major roles. One is to disseminate knowledge, that is teaching learning, and second is to create knowledge, that is research. But very unfortunately in India, there is a serious dearth of research culture. And it is primarily because of this reason that none of our universities or higher educational institutions is able to figure in the top world university rankings. It's primarily because of the poor research culture and also, insufficient research capacity. And, a concern in this regard has also been expressed by the new education policy, where it clearly mentioned that in India, we need to foster a research culture. Why is it that we are not able to do exceedingly well in research? My vast experience shows that from our very beginning, we are never trained to do research. We are taught to pass examinations and move to higher classes. Research requires something different. It requires not only an in-depth knowledge of the subject, not only clarity of concepts, not only thinking on the subject, it also requires you to be innovative and creative. That is very important. You should be an out-of-box thinker. And for good research, 4 things are very important. One is curiosity, then creativity, courage, and commitment. But we are also the part of this education system, and you all know it. this out-of-box thinking is never nurtured in our students. And that is the reason when we suddenly enter into the research field, we are not able to do much. You know, there is a report according to which 98% of the kids who enter kindergarten, they think different. 98% think different. But once they go through the education system, and at the age of 25, when they come out of the education system, 98% of the students think alike. So this is the contribution of our education system. We make them think alike. We focus on rote learning. We do not encourage thinking, innovation, and creativity amongst our students. That is why, you know, tomorrow when they come to the research, they are not able to think on their own. They still think that there will be some syllabus and they will work hard and try to do exceedingly well. Okay, that may be enough, but that's not enough because you need to have an ideas. For good research, most important thing is you need to have interest. Yes, I am interested in research. Then the next one, which is perhaps the most important is, and that is ideas. Without ideas, you cannot do research. You also need local support. You also need funds. All those things are there. But everything revolves around ideas. If there is no idea, what will you do? You cannot do anything. You may be knowing all the research methodologies. You may be knowing all academic report writing. But ultimately, in a research activity, most important is ideas. And ideas come to, you know, ideas ultimately give rise to creativity. And creativity then gives rise to innovation. So how does one get creativity? Creativity comes through creative thinking. And what is creative thinking? Creative thinking is when you try to connect previously unconnected ideas. That is what is called creative thinking. So for that, you should have a sound knowledge in your own subject and other related fields so that you could interconnect various ideas and then come out with creativity. So, dear participants, that is my feeling as to why, you know, I have personally worked with a Nobel laureate. I have seen how things work. We need preservance. That is very important. We need to have, you know, we sometimes want immediate gains. That is not possible. We need to have patience while doing research. We need to have an enormous amount of open-mindedness and creativity. And then we also need to build bridges rather than walls. In India, I have noted that many people try to work in isolation. That's not the right attitude. So, you know, if you see abroad, those people who have got Nobel Prizes, so many people, you know, share their ideas when a problem is decided and they make their own contribution. Because one may not be knowing everything. Therefore, you know, these things are very important. We need to adopt that in our research culture. And only then one can think of coming out with a good research output. After all, why do we do research? Why? It is either for knowledge and understanding, or it is for discovering and verifying new facts, or it may be supporting truths or proving lies, or it may be for aiding business success. So many things could be there. But please remember, what is the difference between search and research? The difference between search and research is search is done by everybody. Everybody searches something. But Research is done only by experts because you have to go into the depth. So this requires a great deal of hard work. So, and in research, I would, because as I personally feel, most of you are already PhDs. You have already done research. So it's not something new which I am going to tell. But why I am telling you this is because you are also teachers. And it is your responsibility to prepare future generations for high quality research. And that can be done only by having high quality teaching and learning. So that is your responsibility. Your teaching should reflect the amount of thinking you have done on the subject. And you should encourage your students to think along those lines. You should always give a knowledge of so many fields which are interconnected. Rather, you should have an integrated approach to teaching and learning. Only teachers can change the system. And therefore, my request to all of you is, you will learn so many things in this faculty development program. I am told many eminent resource persons are going to speak. Great, and you will certainly benefit a lot. But after 1 week, once the faculty development program is over, it's for you not only to adopt them, but also train future generations for high quality research. We need that. Without creativity, we are always moving in the same cycle and there is no progress. And creativity comes through curiosity. Curiosity, it is said, is the seed of creativity. So all these things you have to keep it in mind. Because once you have a research problem very clear, then there are various steps which we call to be the research methodology, which can take you to the desired result. So all those methodologies will be told to you. Then once your results are out, then how to present whatsoever is the outcome of your research, that comes under academic report writing. That will also be told to you. So you can very well understand the importance of this faculty development program. This will prepare you for big, big challenges for the future. And please don't think that now you cannot become a great researcher. Still you can become. Because you will have to work very, very hard in your own discipline, see the interconnection, look into the problem, do the literature survey, find out the problem which is still not solved, and then try to come out with a problem, and then using the research methodology, come to the solution. So, it's never too late. I always say it's never too late to be what you might have been, and make efforts in that direction. Not only for yourself, but also for your students. And that is how the change can be brought about. That's the purpose of this talk and the purpose of this faculty development program. It is said a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Let this be the first step in the right direction. So whatsoever best we can do, we should try to do. And then one more thing you have to keep it in mind. While doing research, while doing a report, while presenting the results, you have to keep in mind the professional ethics. Research ethics are very important. Research ethics is what you have the right to do and what is the right thing for you to do. That is very important. You have to differentiate between that. So there are many moral standards which you have to keep: honesty, right reporting, plagiarism, all those things. I'm sure all those aspects will be touched. So I once again wish you all the best, welcome you once again, and thank Dr. Bibu for inviting me and to share some of my thoughts on this. And I'm sure that you will go very well benefited by the deliberations in this faculty development program and will be able to make significant contributions in the field of research, which is a very, very important activity in higher education. Thank you very much and all the best. Thank you.
Sahu sir, please unmute.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring word. Sir, you nicely explained what is research culture and what should be the role of a teacher in the new era. Thank you once again, sir. We are really grateful for accepting our invitation. Now, I would like to introduce the chief guest of the event, Professor R.K. Singh, sir. We are glad that you have accepted our invitation and are here to grace this FDP with your esteemed presence. Professor R.K. Singh is currently Head and Dean, Department of Commerce, University of Delhi. An alumnus of Delhi School of Economics, he has worked with the Sri Ram College of Commerce before joining the Department of Commerce. He specializes in organizational behavior and human resource management and development. He is an avid reader and researcher with a number of national and international publications with Springer, Emerald, etc. He has been awarded for his research such as Best Business Academic Award, Silver Medal, art by All India Commerce Association, and won many Best Paper Awards. With a focus on managing human resource, organizational effectiveness, and spirituality, Professor Singh has conducted many training workshops with Indian Institute of Public Administration, Steel Authority of India Limited, GAIL, IFCO, to name a few. He has been editor of Business Analysis, now on editorial board and reviewer of many reputed journals. He has more than 20 years of teaching experience in the field of and also in the field of consultancy, corporate training, and administration. He has held various positions of responsibilities, including Deputy Dean, Academic Activities and Project, and co-convener Students Empowerment Committee in the University of Delhi. He is a member of various professional bodies such as All India Commerce Association, Association for Psychological Science, USA. He has been invited as keynote speaker for numerous lectures, seminars, and webinars, nationally and internationally. Once again, thank you, sir, for gracing this, for accepting our invitation. We invite you to address this participant.
Thank you.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar, Vibhu. Thank you so much for humbling me. Respected Professor Bakshi Sahab, Professor Jaswinder Singh ji, Dr. Bimal, the organizer of today's event, Dr. Vibhu Prasad, other members of organizing team, esteemed colleagues who have joined us today from different corners of geography. I'm honored to be amongst you today. As Professor Jaswinder Singh told that under this banner of your Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, this is my debut. I feel privileged for this. Thanks to Professor Singh and Vibhu for bringing me on board. I've been hearing a lot about this center, that this center is doing great. And what Professor Bakshi talked, that education is enjoined upon two responsibilities. That is dissemination of knowledge and creation of knowledge. if I have been able to collect and analyze and process the information correctly, then this center has entered into the third role what education is enjoined upon, that is extension activities, which is little larger than dissemination of knowledge and creation of knowledge. So my compliments to the people, those who are at the helm of affairs in this center, who are taking extension, who are making extension of education, reaching to the larger part of the society. And in present virtual time, which was a Hobson's choice created by this pandemic, making it reach to everybody's home, means this center is making home delivery of what is required. Again, my compliments. Very thoughtfully, organizers have chosen the theme for 7 days interaction with faculty members to look at what research is, what research methods need to be known to scholars, budding scholars rather, and what Professor Jaswinder Singh was talking about, that it is not only doing, but communicating, garnishing it, embellishing it, presenting it, so that the user, when it reaches to the user, then feels little elevated. So compliments to organizers, compliments to Dr. Vibhu Prasad for
Thank you, sir.
Carefully knitting the idea of this program. As we are talking about research, which has been highly emphasized by Professor Bakshi, that there is a need to create a research culture. And he also mentioned very focused, stressed upon that we are lacking behind. Yes. His words of wisdom and caution that must be taken by the academic, that if we will not be able to do that, then we may miss the bus. But there is a need to understand that why do we lack? And are we actually lacking, or we are made to lack? Undoubtedly, the research of present times, which has a focus on documentation, which has a focus on presentation, it was very developed and is developed in different forms at this place, in this country. In earlier wage of acquisition of knowledge, knowledge was seen in terms of revelation, which was accessible to few. And what was accessible to few if they wanted to make it reach to larger masses, they used to package it. And that packaging was done in terms of rituals, in terms of religion, religious practices. I will not elaborate it more here. Some other time I may. But in due course of time, Britishers, particularly English people from England and Spain, they found another reality. They found that few travelers moving through sea route from different places to different places, roaming here and there, and collecting a lot of information. These Britishers started sponsoring the voyage, the ship travel, in search of a business. There used to be travel for years together. And royalties and colonial people used to sponsor the voyage. But there was a condition. Condition was that the travelers, wherever they will go, whatever they see, whatever they experience, that they will document. And so that if they are able to document is, if they are able to create a record, that record, even after years, it reaches back to the own soil, there would be no loss of the knowledge in transportation. There was a loss of knowledge or intent in the transportation in our system. But what Britishers brought, the loss of the knowledge in transportation was minimized. This what Britishers called as research. If you want to read more, you can refer a book by Linda Tohiwai Smith, Decolonizing Methodologies. It will give you the other side of research methods. If you want to further read, you can refer the book of a great historian of present times, an Israeli historian, Yuval Noah Harari. In his book, Sapiens, he goes for talking a lot about that how knowledge is evolved. In present times, if we want to prove or we want to keep pace with what is happening around, we can't keep our collars up just saying that in ancient times we were doing something great. The yardsticks, the parameters, the way of looking at that has undergone tremendous change. And with tumultuous upheavals in the existing context, the research has to be brought there in the forefront. What the previous speakers, they have emphasized. At the same time, there is a need to understand that what research is not. That collection of the data, analysis of the data, and the presentation of the facts and results in a very broad sense of the term is not a research. So before you go for understanding what research methods are there and how research reports are written, there is need to understand that actually you are in a domain of research or not. And for that, as it is not search, it is research. Therefore, there is a need to understand that we academic are not in search of a truth. We are in a search of a reality. To me, there are only two truths. One, the God, whether you are theist or atheist, you believe or you don't believe, but there is a God. That is one truth. And the other truth is death. You accept or you don't accept. You keep the blinders on your eyes, you remain it open, but the death is there. But other than God and death, whatever we see, whatever we narrate, there is a reality. So researcher always looks at that reality. And when researcher is looking at the reality, reality is very subjective. Reality is very perceptual. Reality is very selective. Therefore, for research, there is a need to build a selective, personal, subjective reality which comes close to your heart. What Professor Bakshi was talking about, that there is a need to take interest. Things happen thrice. Manasa vacha karmana. Manase, vachan se or karma se. What the Western world says, affect, behavior and cognition, ABC. Affect is the emotion part, cognition is the thinking part, and behavior is the doing part. So it happens first here at the heart, then it happens here in your mind, in your brain, and then you go for doing it actually. So research, there has to be, for doing a good quality research, there is a need to understand that how to sync the three, ABC, affect, behavior, and cognition. And for that, there is a need to see the existing things in a newer light, bringing new insight, going beyond, bringing a critical thinking. Before talking about the creative thinking, there is a need to bring the critical thinking, the other side of the reality. And for bringing that critical thinking, there is another element which is very important, which has been highlighted by Einstein, the great scientist. Einstein used to say that for doing research, there is need to climb the shoulders of elders. और बड़ों के कंधे पे बैठने का तात्पर्य, मकसद आइंस्टाइन का ये था कि कोई भी शोध, कोई भी रिसर्च अगर आप बड़ों के कंधे पे बैठ के नहीं करेंगे तो आपको समझ में नहीं आएगा. Why he was giving this example of the climbing the shoulders of elders? You look at the actual meaning of climbing the shoulders of elders. Then when you climb, or when you put your kids on your shoulders, your kids are having better view than you. So Einstein used to say that, look at that, what elders, what the existing literature has already talked about. And then you go for bringing up better helicopter perspective. And this will come only when, as an academic, as a researcher, we will come out of conformance mindset and go for thinking critically. And this critical thinking is the first and foremost skill sought in present times. This what has been proved in the research done by Klaus Schwab, the founder director of World Economic Forum. If you want to read more, you can visit the website vforum.org, worldeconomicforum.org, where Klaus Schwab's research has identified 10 skills which are needed in present times in students and in academic. Another thing about the research, that what is the context? The research of present times is largely based on the principles of natural science. Natural science, which is based on the philosophy of logical positivism, which is coming in the way, aise hi hoga. But the discipline from which I come, in social sciences, there is no the way. There is a way. This could be, this could not be, this may be, it could be seen like this also, it could be seen like this also. So their logical positivism doesn't work. Their constructionism works. Their interpretivism works. So there is a need to understand that the research, the context which we are taking, if we are using the principles of natural science where majority of the mathematical models are based, the result what we will get would be spurious. So using the method with a caution, with a pinch of salt, that for understanding the reality, to explore the reality and to assign a meaning to given context, there is a need to carefully choose the method, understanding the context and nuance of the social science. It is same as when you are making your chole, and in the regimen of chole you add cream, you add cheese, the basic taste and the flavor of chole would be lost. The cheese may be very well sought in other contexts. It may be well sought Italian dish, but cannot be a well sought Indian dish. So there is a need to understand that whatever we are doing, it has a different kind of regimen. So selection of the methodology, choice of the methodology is to be dependent on the context what we are taking. Else you take any statistical model, you feed some figures, you will get some results. Another point, that there has to be element of continuity. If a research is done in silo, you create, you enjoy, and you forget. Then the research done in absence of continuity is a disservice to humanity. Because the basic objective of the research is to take the reality to the next level. And that would be possible only when there is element of continuity, that you see that what is done in the past and how you are going to further it. If this continuity is maintained, the presentation would be, even if the flowery words are not there, but the presentation would be very logical, appealing to the reader. So in that case, the comment from the reviewer, you will accept that, see, your explanation is very good, but you may refer the language edited for making it more presentable. And if that continuity is not there, then your manuscript may get desk rejection. So therefore, there is a need to understand this. And there has to be element of discovery. Whenever you are communicating your paper, the first thing reviewer looks at, that what is the element of discovery. There may not be any element of innovation, but there has to be element of discovery. And that element of discovery is that seeing things using different lights, different lenses. Ever since I'm there in this commerce education, I have been reading, listening, writing about human relations movement, how Hawthorne experiment was conducted. But a couple of 2-3 years back, I came across a book on organizational theory authored by Tomo Peltonen. The Peltonen's revisiting of the human relations movement, that gave me a new insight that what this experiment was. The kind of the context that the Peltonen has created in his book, I get goosebumps. Therefore, there has to be element of that discovery. And along with this, 3 more things are required. That whatever you do, that needs to be theorized. Because the shelf life of theory is much longer than the shelf life of practice. Often we get comments from industry कि ये जो यूनिवर्सिटीज कॉलेजेस में पढ़ाया जाता है ये प्रैक्टिस से बिल्कुल अलग है, पर मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि हमारी जो प्रैक्टिस है, हमारी जो थ्योरी है वो आती कहां से है और हमारी जो प्रैक्टिस है वो जाती कहां पे है। All our practices leads to theory and theories are based on practices. When we do research, we study the behavior of the practitioners, and on the basis of the study of the practitioners, we go for deducing a theory which has a longer shelf life. So if you want to bring the element of eternity in your research, then there has to be element of theorization. Second, as Professor Jaswinder Singh was talking about, that there has to be element of presentability. उसको अच्छे तरीके से प्रेजेंट किया जाए, और जब अच्छे तरीके से प्रेजेंट किया जाए तो I have a very old pet example कि माँ को माँ कह देना और माँ को पिताजी की पत्नी कह देना, रिश्ता दोनों में एक ही है, माँ तो पिताजी की पत्नी है, पर जिस दिन आपने माँ को पिताजी की पत्नी कह के संबोधित किया उस दिन की बात, और जिस दिन आपने माँ को माँ कह के संबोधित किया, दोनों से एक नए रिश्ते की शुरुआत होती है. So therefore there is a need to understand that how you are presenting it, how you are writing it. And the third, which is of importance when you are communicating in a journal, that the designing skills. जैसे आपके घर के रहने का एक तरीका है, और जब भी आप किसी दोस्त या रिश्तेदार के वहां जाते हैं तो आपको लगता है यार इसने कैसे ये बुद्ध की मूर्ति कहाँ रखी हुई है, इसने गुरु नानक देव जी को कहाँ रखा हुआ है इसने, अरे इसके बाद लाइटिंग थोड़ी कम नहीं लग रही है, इसके बाद लाइटिंग थोड़ी ज्यादा नहीं लग रही है, ये बड़ा लाउड है. It means you are seeing others' arrangement of the house with your own arrangement. Similarly, all platforms, all journals, they have their own house. They have gone for decorating their house in their own way, what they find is good. आपका ड्राइंग रूम तो आपके लिए बेस्ट है और दूसरे का भी ड्राइंग रूम उसके लिए बेस्ट है. So when you are communicating to a journal, please understand that what kind of the design, the style that journal follows, and tweak your writing, design your writing so that the right kind of the fitment is created. That will give a lot of eternity, a longer shelf life of your research, which will help you to achieve what just now off the cuff I have gone for talking about. I have not gone for giving you any big gyan, just what is based on my experience being there in this academic since last 3 decades. I will not take much of your time. I'm again thankful to organizers for giving this opportunity to be with you and share very vague and unstructured ideas with you about the research and your writing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful word of wisdom. Sir, you nicely explain what is research and what is the shortcomings of research and what should be the role of a researcher and how to write a good research paper. So thank you once again, sir. You have accepted our invitation in a short period. Now I propose my colleague, Dr. Upasana Dhanda, for a vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the organizing team, I take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks. At the outset, I would like to thank our Honorable Chief Guest, Professor R.K. Singh, sir, for gracing this occasion with his valuable presence. Sir, your impeccable mentoring has always shown us the way, and we're very grateful that you accepted our invitation, and we look forward to have you with us on more such events. We extend our gratitude to Professor A.K. Bakshi, sir. He's been a source of inspiration and motivation for all of us. And so your words of wisdom always fill the participants with enthusiasm and zeal. I take this opportunity to thank our Honorable Principal, Sir, Dr. Jaswinder Singh. He has been a guiding light, a source of inspiration. He has always supported BBE department, and it is actually his meticulous planning and precise execution that all the endeavors that we do, they have always been successful. I thank the strongest pillar of GAD-TLC, Dr. Vimal ma'am. She is one lady which inspires us all. With her hard work, she has made GAD-TLC reach great heights. I thank the most important person of this FDP, Dr. Sahu sir, without whom I think this FDP won't be possible. He has worked day and night to make this FDP come alive. And it is his utmost dedication and unwavering commitment for this institution that has always resulted in events like this, which benefit all of us. I thank my team, Neeraj sir, Sanchita ma'am, Karman ma'am, and the technical team for working so hard. And finally, to all the participants for actively registering for this FDP, and hope you all have an enriching experience. We will now begin with our first session, and I would hand over to Sanchita ma'am. We have with us Professor Jaspreet Kaur. We welcome you, ma'am, and we would start with our first session on introduction to research. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Namaskar.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar, namaskar. Sanchita, over to Sanchita.
Good afternoon to all of you. We had an amazing start to this session, and now we'll have our first session by Dr. Jaspreet Kaur. And this is on Introduction to Research, Literature Review, and Research Design. I would like to introduce ma'am. Dr. Jaspreet Kaur is an associate professor at Pearl Academy. She has over 16 years of teaching experience in marketing research. She has authored 2 books on customer relationship management and service marketing, and has written many research papers in Scopus and ABTC journals. She's an editor and reviewer to many ABDC and Scopus journals like International Journal of Consumer Studies, a Wiley publication, and Management Decisions, an Emerald publication. She's an AMT certified faculty from IMA and has received the GRABS Best Researcher Award in the year 2008. And the last year only, she received the ITSR Best Researchers Award. She has conducted over 25 faculty development programs and workshops on the topics of systematic review and meta-analysis and the qualitative research with NVIVO this year. We welcome you, ma'am, and we look forward to a fruitful session. And thank you for agreeing to deliver this session today. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity. And I think I should straight away start with the session for all the participants. I am going through introduction, primarily 3 things. One is introduction part of research. The second is review of literature. And the third, which I'll cover today, is research design. So it's almost like doing 3 chapters, okay? And anybody who's doing a PhD or writing a research paper or writing a research proposal has to go through these 6 chapters. So if you ask me what is the format of a PhD report, a typical PhD report, these are the chapters. Now we'll go through them one by one. I, of course, will be taking introduction, review of literature, which are 2 chapters. In research methodology, I'll be speaking about all the research designs which are available. Okay, so let me come to the introduction chapter. An introduction chapter describes the industry or rationale in which we are doing a study. So for this, what I have to do is you have to give me 1 minute. I would parallelly want to open one of the sample papers. So let me open up a sample paper because, you know, with that you'll understand. I'll actually underline the words and show you what we are talking about. So yeah. Yes. So let me share with you one of the papers. Okay, so this is one of the papers which has an introduction, and first I'll explain through this and then I'll go to the PPT. Now, whenever you write an introduction of a research, a dissertation, or a PhD dissertation, or graduation report, or a research paper, there is something called introduction. Now, what do you write in introduction? That is what I'm about to tell you. My first thing that comes in introduction, whether it's a PhD report, whether it's a research paper, whether it's a research proposal, the first thing that I give to the reader is the industry. Okay, so my first paragraph, you can read, you can probably read these few lines. I'm not underlining all, I'm not highlighting all, but just read out the line. It says, social media networking has been the in thing in the past. So I generally explain to my students that this is what we call a rationale. Why are you doing the study? You're not doing the study because you want a PhD degree. I mean, even if you want it, don't show it to the reader. All of us want, the rationale is to complete a PhD degree. Doesn't matter, but don't show it to the reader. Show him an exaggerated problem. Let me give you an example. So I come through these tele ads very often. All of you must have gone through tele ads. So in tele ads, you know, what they show is they show a huge man, absolutely obese. And you know, look at the script, how it starts. That is the starting of a research paper also. He says, I am some 225 kgs. I am very obese. I get stuck in the door. I have BP problems. There's a typical Hindi line, "Main bada pareshan tha," which means in English, I'm actually frustrated with my life. Nobody looks at me. Girls don't look at me. I get caught. I have a BP problem, and this is a very big problem. So if you see 2 minutes of the ad, 1.5 minutes goes in explaining the rationale. Why are you showing the ad? For obese people, who are fat, who have problems, people don't look at them, so on and so forth. And the last 20 seconds, they come with a solution, which is maybe a Shauna belt, or it is a medicine, or it is a personal trainer, whatever it is. So in the introduction of your thesis, PhD thesis, what are you supposed to be doing? You're supposed to be exaggerating a problem. Look at the first line of my paper. Social media has been the in thing for the past decade. It might have not been, I don't know, but I have exaggerated it. Let me exaggerate it further. This has elicited an increased interest of academicians. So what am I saying? This area is very important. This industry that I'm working on is very important. And I go on and on and on, exaggerating the problem in the first paragraph. For you, in the first chapter, you will have to divide introduction into some parts. The first part is the industry problem. All of us are doing research for industry problems. Okay. When it comes to management, it will be an industry problem. If it is a faculty from the English domain, it is going to be their respective whatever implications it has. If it's a person who's doing a psychological research, psychologists. If it is a person who's doing a science research, maybe medical practitioners. So first paragraph is exaggerate the problem. Say the industry is so huge. In my case, it's industry. In your case, it could be English language, it could be psychology trait, it could be thematic apprehension test, anything, exaggerate it. Say that it is so big that without this research, probably the world would be incomplete. Exaggerate. That's the first thing you do in introduction. Let me come to the second thing. So I'll be switching between slides to show you actually what happens. First thing, describe the industry or the rationale to do the study. So that is the first part of your introduction. Part number 2, trace previous research work on that subject. Trace the previous research work on that subject. Let's go back and see. Let's go back and see in the paper. Have we been able to do that? Yeah. So I go further. Let me go further. Okay. These are all statistics. These are all exaggeration of the problem. You will see industry, you will see figures, you will see data. So many billion industry, so big industry, 30% online brands are using. This is all exaggeration. This is all exaggeration. Okay. As per the survey, Nielsen said 50. This is all exaggeration. Now, from here onwards, do what I'm writing? I am writing all the authors who have developed the topic of my research, which over here is social media technology use. That is the topic of my research, PhD thesis or whatever. I have to tell the guide that, listen, this has already happened. So from here to here, it has already happened, but be very careful. Just look at the year of the references when you're writing about past research. 2014, 2012, 2011, 2016, 2014. And if I go to the end of this paragraph, you will see 2019 and 2017. Okay, so when I say trace the past research, and remember, this is not a review of literature chapter. I'm just trying to tell the guide that so and so work has happened, and this is what is not happened. I'm building a story. For that, I'm telling him, listen, this happened. But if I have to tell him a story, I can't start from 1993, then 1995, then 1997 till date. It will become a huge story. So what I have to tell when I say what are the research which have already been done in this area, I mean to say what has primarily been done in the past 5 years. That's it. Thus, generally, when you write the introduction part, you write or only of the past 5 years. Let me explain to you why. When I read the definition of Kotler way back in 2002, I could have referred to Kotler 2002 many a times in my paper. He used to say, the definition was, marketing are all the processes and procedures which lead to fulfilling the need of the customer. This was his definition. Lately, I got hold of a book of his, 2019, and I read it. He's changed the definition. He says, marketing are the processes and procedures which a brand leads to fulfill the customer need in a societal way. There is another parameter which has come up, societal way. I mean, imagine I'm a business person. I'm going to make a product. I'm going to fulfill his need. I'm going to get money. And then I have to think about the society also. So definitions, work done in the past is always considered to be the past 5 years. The definition of Kotler way back in 2002 is of no use to me now. Nobody cites it. Okay, in a good dissertation, what you're supposed to be doing is past 5-year concept, wrap it up and show your guide that, listen, this has been done. But this is where the last person left in 2009. And from here, I took it forward. This is what you're doing in the introduction chapter. Okay. So these are two parts you've understood. One is exaggerating about the industry. The second is about the past 5 years. So describe the industry or rationale to do the study. I've shown it to you. And this is a standard format of most of the PhD reports that the guides are expecting. Trace previous work on the subject and set up a problem. Okay. Number 3, identify how your paper addresses the problem. Let's go back and see. So I will say how my paper addresses the problem. Plus, I will say that there are gaps in these 5 years of previous research. I'll say these two things together. And where are those lines? I'll just show you those lines. Okay. Despite the past literature available on the topic, the study of SMTU on entrepreneurship is in its nascent stage. There are similar lines which I write after explaining what has happened in the 5 years. You'll see it in every dissertation. It should be written because novelty gap of the research topic is defined in the introduction chapter. This is the chapter where you say that this is the novelty of my research. This is a new thing I'm contributing to the present literature. So lines like very scant research has been done on so and so topic. Past literature did not cover so and so, so and so. Literature on SMTU is in its nascent stage. SMTU literature is not in its nascent stage. Social media has been studied by many researchers, but in the papers that I am about to write, I want to study topics like neuromarketing. I want to study topics like digital storytelling in brands. These are still in their nascent stage. Gamification by brands, they are all in nascent stage. But even to write this, do you see a reference? Do you see a reference? It's a reference of 2014. Nothing has to be written with your feeling. My PhD students that I guide, I'm telling you some practical things that they come up with. They say, ma'am, I feel I want to work on this topic. Please don't feel. Once you've joined PhD, stop feeling. Stop feeling. Please don't feel. Give me data. Give me an author who says that there is less research in this domain. Only then will I allow you to take up the topic. If you come to me and say, ma'am, I want to work on purchase intention, I'll say no. Around 2,000 papers are there on purchase intention. No, you're not going to work on it. Ma'am, I want to work on attitude of a consumer. No, 3,000 papers on attitude of consumer. You'll not work on it. I need this line. I need this line in your introduction which says that very less research has been done in it and I am going to contribute to it. When you give me a PhD topic of introduction, tell me I'm going to contribute something and tell me with authors. Don't say I feel. Okay. So that is what I have shown in the introduction chapter. Another line, you can see the lines. I've tried to prove very scant literature is available in the context of SMTU and so variables. We call them variables. Entrepreneurial orientation, innovation capability, innovation performance. These are the variables I worked on. And very scant literature is there. And thus this study fills the gap. Okay. And then of course, how does it fill the gap? So your research objectives come here. When you describe your research objectives, you just don't say, when I was naive in research, so what I used to do is in introduction, straight away, the first paragraph was research objectives. Lately, I learned that this is the structure of an introduction. I have to defend my novelty, and this is the way of defending it. Okay, so this is the first chapter, nothing much in this, but if I summarize, exaggerate an industry problem, whether it's in medicine, whether it's psychology, whether it's English, whether it's biology, whether it is management, whether it is HR, human resources, exaggerate the problem. Number one, gamification. So if you're talking about gamification, show that so much billion growth will be there in gamification. Okay. Number two, list all the research that has happened in the past 5 years in gamification or in SMTU or in whichever field you have taken up. Number three, write down through references, not just by feeling, through references, that very less study has been done on this topic. Number four, write down your research objectives and say what are you going to do to fill this gap. This is the whole structure of introduction. Okay, this is the structure of introduction when you're giving a research proposal to ICSSR. This is the introduction when you're doing a PhD thesis. This is an introduction when you are submitting a dissertation in MBA. And this is the structure when you are submitting a research paper. This is what introduction chapter number 1 consists of. In PhD, this chapter could go on to somewhere around 5,000 words to 10,000 words. In research proposal, we make this chapter to somewhere around 500 words because the whole proposal is 2,000 words. If you're applying for PhD, synopsis, so that generally is barely 1,500 words. So there, this chapter will become maybe 400 words. In a research paper, the whole paper is somewhere around 8,000 words. This chapter becomes 1,500 words. The size of the chapter increases or decreases, but the core remains what I've told you. Okay, so this is one introduction part. This will not take much time. Review will, and research design, of course, will take quite a bit of time. It's a technical thing. So this is what you write in your introduction part. Now let me come to theoretical framework. Okay, let me explain this. Or the second chapter, which we call review of literature. So the review of literature, the chapter which we call review of literature, can be named as theoretical framework. It can be named as review of literature. It can be named as past literature. It has different names, but let us take review of literature or theoretical framework as the main thing. This chapter refers to all the previous work which has been done and which is necessary. If some research was done way back in 1978, yesterday I was reviewing a paper, and there was a very naive researcher. It wasn't a very good journal paper, but there was a very naive researcher, I think. So I remember he gave a reference of 1978. There was a reference on a topic of 1978. So I wrote back to him in the review. I said, this is a very old reference. And I wrote down, I was not even born in this year. So, 78 is before I was born. So how can I review a work which was done even before I was born? So very naive. There are very small little mistakes. Okay. Again, in this section, you will describe the concept. So, you will say that SMTU was defined as so-and-so by someone in, say, 1991. Agreed. But that is the last line, which should have a reference older than 5 years. The second line onwards, the past 5-year work should come up. Number one. Number two, the purpose of this section is to list down all the 100 papers that have happened in your domain. So if SMTU has been studied by 100 researchers, all those 100 researchers and their concepts have to be listed here. This chapter is also used to give operational definitions. I'll tell you what is operational definitions. I'll take you to the paper. So if I am studying a variable called entrepreneurial orientation, I have to define it. Why do I have to define it? Because some 200 researchers have defined it. Which definition am I referring to? I will have to define. I'll come to the paper and show you these parts. Latest references that I've explained. Proving a hypothesis, generally done in quantitative techniques. Okay, so the development of hypothesis is done in this chapter number 2, which is review of literature. Now let me show you the paper, and then I'll show you a few papers which are only made on review of literature. So coming back to the paper, we go to this could be your dissertation also. So this is a review of literature. I am studying 4 or 5 variables. We call them variables. Okay, something that varies. You could study them quantitatively. You could study them qualitatively. But in both the domains, They are known as variables. So look at operational definition of variables. So I take up a variable called social media network. I define it. This is just definition, nothing but definition. And I take some 4-5 authors to define it. Okay. I go to the next variable. What is my next variable? Entrepreneurial orientation. I've still not come on cause effect. I've still not come on my objective. I am plainly defining variables. So these are the people who are defining that. So of course I use a reference of 1996 in the beginning, but after that I come up to latest references. Okay, so that's about operational definition. Then my next variable is innovation capability. Again, I define it with references. Only the definition is going on right now. See, the first part of review of literature, first define. Okay, now I come to development of hypothesis. Hypothesis is generally developed when you're doing a causal relationship between two variables. I will come to this when I'm doing research design also, but as of now, just understand this very simple concept. If you say that traffic leads to pollution, okay, suppose a student comes to me and says, ma'am, I want to study the impact of traffic on pollution. I will tell the student, go and get me 5 authors who say so. Then the student will say, ma'am, this is common. Why do I have to go and search literature for this? Traffic does create pollution. Traffic impacts pollution. Ma'am, this is very, very common. There is no need of author. This is understood, ma'am. This is normal. This is the understood. And then I tell him, no, get me 4 authors. Similarly, students come to me and say, ma'am, I want to understand the impact of advertising on sales. I said, okay, fine. Go and get me authors. Ma'am, why do we have to prove it? This is a known fact. Advertising does impact sales. So then I tell them, leave the topic then. When it is already known fact, you also know it, I also know it, the world knows it. Why do you have to research it? Why do you want to reinvent the wheel? Forget it then. Then they understand the point, and then they go back and bring 4 authors. So here my 2 variables, traffic and pollution, are SMTU and EO. Forget what they are. Forget the operational definitions. Cause and effect wise, the 2 variables that I'm studying, traffic and pollution, are SMTU and EO. I have to look at the number of authors I have brought who say that there is a relationship between these 2 topics. Unless and until I don't quote these 4 authors, I cannot hypothesize. What is a hypothesis? It's an assumption. I cannot hypothesize that this relationship is true. Another very funny event that happened in my jury, I was taking a jury of market research students, and my graduation students in Pearl Academy, or maybe they were PG students. I give this line to them, that data never lies. This is a standard line. Every market researcher has this USP. He or she says data never lies. So I just asked them a question. They brought such a cause effect variable, which I didn't feel was, didn't even make common sense, something like this. So I said, can you bring me 4 authors? No, ma'am, we have not got 4 authors, but I think this definitely makes sense. And I want to do a hypothesis. I want to research on this. I said, okay, tell me one thing. The number of times I clap, the more number of times earthquake happens in Delhi. Suppose I give you a data, 2 columns. In one column, I give you the number of times I clap. In the second column, I give you the number of times earthquake happens in Delhi. And you find a positive correlation. Suppose a correlation value of 0.8, which is very high correlation between the 2. Now tell me, what will you do? Will you write it in your report or not? I don't know whether it was the fear of the student or that line that they remember, data never lies. They said, yes, ma'am, we will write this down as a result in my report. And that was my biggest failure. This is where review helps the analysis. You don't straight away analyze. You first read review. Is it making common sense? So I told them, I said, before even getting to the analysis chapter number 4, you are supposed to be collecting review of literature. So I told them, now that you've said it, now that your correlation has come out to be 0.8 and you're saying, I'll write it in the report, go and bring me 4 authors who say that the moment a woman claps, there are earthquakes in the same city. Go and bring me literature. Quickly, 4 authors I need, otherwise I'll fail you. So those guys really got panicky and they understood the point. So why I'm giving you this example is to tell you that maybe a few of you will say, ma'am, I am proving it. Why do I have to write what all 4 people have proven? What am I doing if other 4 have proved it? The logic of writing review, proving of causal relationships in review of literature chapter is so that we can be sure that there is common sense to our analysis. I mean, if you go by correlation tables, if you go by analysis, there will be, the student found out the number of time ma'am claps and earthquakes, correlation 0.8. Data can fudge you, but concepts cannot. So first build a concept, then go for analysis. So this is the chapter where you build a concept. Okay. Now, development of hypothesis. So whatever hypothesis I had, causal relationships like SMTU and EO, I develop it. I write authors who have proven it. And then I write my hypothesis. Hypothesis is an assumption that we take in research. These are listed in the review of literature chapter. This, although, is an example of a quantitative research. When we go to qualitative research, hypotheses become propositions. Okay, so in quantitative research, they are called hypotheses. In qualitative research, they are called propositions. Okay, so all that hypothesis proving thing comes here. Okay, just give me 1 minute. So it becomes hypothesis. Now, let me tell you, this is an example of a quantitative paper. See, the introduction part is same for a quantitative and a qualitative paper, but the review of literature part will differ a little in a quantitative paper versus a qualitative paper. So let me open up now. I have too many windows open, so give me 1 minute. I want to open a qualitative paper and show it to you. Yeah. So I have a few sample papers which are open, and this way, I will also introduce you to types of, research that you can do also. So this is not only about research paper, your PhD thesis also is qualitative or quantitative. Now, yeah. So now let me share now this is what we call a qualitative paper. There are many types of qualitative paper. I'll come to that. Okay, so one of them is called a conceptual paper. I'll come to types, don't worry. I'll cover everything today. But I'll just explain how review of literature is done in a qualitative paper. What types there are, I'll show you all. I'll send it on mail also if possible. I'll do that. So there is an introduction part over here. If you are going for a qualitative research in PhD, there's an introduction part. The format is same as that what I've explained to you. But when it comes to review of literature, a qualitative paper, especially a conceptual paper, the way I'm showing you, does not have a separate chapter of review of literature. Okay, so remember operational definitions, the way we did it in a quantitative paper, the same thing we are doing in a qualitative paper. A qualitative paper is very different. You'll be surprised to see this paper. There is no chapter of review of literature. There is no chapter of research methodology. There is no chapter of finding analysis. in a conceptual paper or a qualitative paper, the division of chapters is not the typical way it is there in quantitative papers. So I define, okay, dimensions of CEB, I study whatever it is, I make up a model, the way there is a model in a quantitative paper, there's a model over here also. And finally, I make a concept. I'm studying model. See, it is all qualitative data, no numbers, no nothing. It is all qualitative. Okay. And finally, I say, okay, I can conclude. So look at it, no chapters, no review of literature, no research methods, no findings, no chapters. And finally, while developing the concept, I finally conclude that this is the conceptual model that I have developed, right? The review of literature of a conceptual paper is very, very different from a quantitative paper. I think it's easier to describe a quantitative paper because I go for operational definition, then I say explain the hypothesis, then I say come to model, and that's it. But when I come to review of literature, because there is no chapter in a qualitative conceptual paper, it is very difficult to say from where it started, where it ended. But primarily it starts because you're developing a concept. Developing a concept is not easy. Okay, it is something that the Gyanis or the very learned people do. So if I say I have to develop a concept, so if I say Dr. Jagdish Sheth, a very well-known name in management, he developed the concept, he gave the model called Jagdish Sheth model, and he gave it through qualitative research, not through quantitative research. So this sort of a PhD topic he must have taken, where he studied the whole concept and finally proposed a model. Okay, absolutely qualitative, conceptual research can be taken. So this is chapter number 2. I will come to more types of papers, but I will come to that when I finish chapter number 3. So now there's one more thing which I have to explain to you in chapter number 2, which is the difference between a conceptual model and a theoretical model. Now this might confuse you when you're writing review of literature. So I want to explain to you what is a theoretical model and what is a conceptual model. These two terms will come again and again with you. Now, what is a conceptual model? Let me straight away come to an example. This is what we call a theoretical model. A theoretical model is a model which has already been given by some expert. For example, the BCG model of Boston Consultancy Group, the theory of planned behavior, which is in front of you, given by Askin, 1991, the UTAUT model, generally used in information technology, of Venkatesh sir, consumer behavior model, Jagdish and Sheth model given by Jagdish Sheth sir. These are models already given by experts. And we follow these models, or we take them as a reference point. Further, we develop these models. How do we develop them? So this is a typical model. I'll explain it with an example. For all of you who are not from the management domain or not from the marketing domain, although theory of planned behavior is something which is being used in criminology, in psychology, in management, in HR, in IT, there is not a single field where this theory is not being applied. But the theory of planned behavior says that attitude, subjective norms, and PBC impact intention and further behavior. This is a proven theory given by experts. A conceptual model is when you add your own variable into this model and say that I have developed a concept. So in this model, same model, it is the same model. So it had attitude, subjective norms, PBC, impacting intention. Now what does it have? It has 4 more variables. It has moral norm, it has descriptive norm, it has environmental concern. Okay, 1, 2, 3, three more variables. It has 3 new variables. Who brought in these variables to this model? You, the researcher, you who's doing the PhD. Further, the theory of planned behavior said that these three parameters only affect intention. But you see a new variable over here, which is habit. Who brought this variable here? Whose contribution is this? Who extended this model to make it a conceptual extended model? It is you, the researcher, you, the PhD student. And finally, both of these lead to behavior, which was also the case in the previous model. So now, what the Gyanis, the experts have already given us, which does not need any further proof, and which I'm taking as a base for my review of literature, for my research, for my analysis, becomes theoretical model. The variables that I add into it and propose that he had 3, I'm checking 6. My contribution, my extension becomes the conceptual model. And in review of literature, we are supposed to be describing the theoretical model which we took as a base, plus the conceptual model that we are proposing, because each and every arrow that you see in this model is a cause-effect relationship. I need, for each of the arrows that you see, I need 4 authors. If you don't give me 4 authors, probably this cause effect is clapping and earthquakes. It doesn't have logic. So this writing about, listen, I took this theoretical model as a base. This comes in review of literature. And see, I proposed this. I extended it. The Gyani had done only 3 variables. I brought in 6. That is called a conceptual model. Even this with authors, each arrow with 4 authors each, you have to explain in chapter number 2, which is review of literature. Okay, I hope review of literature is clear. Whether you're trying to prove this through quantitative research, whether you're trying to prove this through qualitative research, both the places you will have to include this in chapter number 2, review of literature. Okay, so it's somewhere around 5 before I start research design. Can we take a few questions, because I've just not looked at the chat box and I see questions. So can we take a few questions first? Is it okay, Upasana and Sanchita ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me take questions and then I go to chapter number 3. We have finished chapter number 2.
Right.
All right, thank you. So, okay, I think these comments are for, would the participants get a copy of the PPT? I will be giving PPTs and research papers, all samples of research paper, at least 8-10 types to the management, and they can pass it to you. Yeah. Thanks for the comments. Okay, yeah, I'm looking for questions. Kindly make a note of the questions. Okay, how to develop a concept for my research? Vidya Sagar sir is saying how to develop a concept for my research. Sir, you'll have to first come down. The process of making an introduction topic or getting a novelty for research is look at where no work is done. I'll give you an example. Suppose you have a feeling. Let's go by feeling. You know, PhD scholars first start with a feeling. By the time they continue 1 year of PhD, all feelings die out. But initially they start with feelings. So when PhD scholars have feelings, you know, they come up with a topic of interest. Very broad topic, not narrow, very broad. Ma'am, I want to do something in digital marketing. Ma'am, I want to do something in social media. Ma'am, I want to do something in neuromarketing. They come up with broad topics. Just type that broad topic on Google Scholar. See how many papers you are getting. If you are getting somewhere around 200 papers, take up the topic. But if you are getting somewhere around 2000 papers, please do not take up the topic. Okay, I'll give you a small example. There's a new variable which has come up in consumer behavior last year, 2020 only, I read in papers, which is called panic buying. I had heard of impulsive buying, compulsive buying, emotional buying, rational buying, panic buying. This is something which came in 2020. When I put this panic buying on Google Scholar, I got some 30 papers. I came to know that this is something which has been studied previously also. So in during Indira Gandhi ji's time, when there was an emergency, even then there was panic buying. Okay, so when there were riots, even then there was panic buying. Okay, so panic buying is not new. It is there since 1971 types. But if this is a this is a variable. I was talking about a topic, digital marketing, social media. Now you've come to a variable. On this variable, sir, you should not find more than 10 papers. If you find it, dump it. I wanted to work on panic buying this year. I put it on Google Scholar. I got 10 papers. I said, no gap is there. I dumped it. So this is how you get variables and then construct a model. Further, what about a review paper? Ma'am, I will be showing you review papers. I'll show you a normal review paper. I will show you a new type of review paper which has come, which is called a systematic literature review paper. I'll show it to you when I'm doing research designs, because first I want to tell you what is a research design and where it fits in. Okay, so which in that paper that you're naming, whether it's a review paper, SLR paper, conceptual paper, quantitative paper, in which research design it fits, I want to do that first and then I'll show you papers. Okay, what if it's a period research? I didn't get that, Kiran ma'am. You mentioned 8,000 words limit, 1,500 should be word limit for research paper. And can it be shorter? It can, depending on what you're making. So in a research report, a research proposal you give to ICSSR or AIM, or in a synopsis, it is shorter. In a PhD thesis, it will be huge. Introduction chapter will be huge. Any standards are there to literature review in terms of numbers? No, it depends. And they're always specified. So even PhD, as per the university, they specify what are the number of words for each chapter. For the qualitative research paper, we also need to collect some quantitative data. No, we don't. We don't. Can we write contradictory result? Very good question, Sandeep sir. Very good question. So in review of literature, when we write a cause-effect relationship, I need 4 authors who say yes. I can put 2 authors who say no. Please be very unbiased. Please write whatever has happened in the 5 years, whether towards your hypothesis or towards the null hypothesis. Yeah, Sanchita ma'am, do you want to say something? You're on an unmute.
Yeah, I was just saying that should I read the questions for you if it's difficult?
No, it's okay, ma'am. It's okay, no problem. I think I'll go quicker. Yeah, it has come to my knowledge that quantitative methods are treated superior. No, sir. Rather, the method that most of the foreigners are following today, at least what I see on LinkedIn, is qualitative techniques. And mind you, when I started, learning quantitative, I found quantitative difficult because I'm a non-mathematical person, but qualitative is way difficult. I mean, when you have a PI transcript of 45 minutes of 60 people, 2,500 words document into 60, can you imagine the amount of qualitative text data? Finding out something from that, oh my God, that is more difficult. And it is more, it is coming up now. New techniques like bibliometric analysis, systematic literature review, meta-analysis, even they are coming up in a very big way. So there are challenges to quantitative data. Okay, if we take up a topic in its nascent stage with little or no previous, would it be advisable to take the topic? Definitely, Navya ma'am. I would not suggest any PhD scholar to take a topic on which 2,000 papers have been written, because justifying the novelty becomes very, very difficult. From where to start a research paper? Rahul sir, from introduction. For the research proposal, what's the size of the proposal? It depends, sir, but generally what I have seen, somewhere around 2,500 words. The ones which I have come across, because you just have to say what you propose, and then if selected, that is when they ask you for a full synopsis. Time duration, say from 45 to 91. Yeah, so what was your question, Kiran ma'am? Please write it down again. Hypothesis should be listed from or in a statement form. Yes, it is exactly in the statement form as I showed you. For commerce field, ma'am, Dakshita, I didn't get your question. Mixed research methods, Mini Kumari, ma'am, I'll come to that when I do research designs. Remind me, I'll come to that. Qualitative and quantitative together are called. How to research on a famous personality focused on one aspect more. Roma, ma'am, I didn't get your question. You'll have to elaborate a little more. Um, and now let me see. Uh, Thank you. Okay, I think I've finished everything on the chat. Let me see, the Q&A is also there. Just a minute. Let me see if I finished. I think I have. Sanchita ma'am, you can just see. So I finished this. I'll just go to Q&A. So Vidya Sagar Kumar sir is asking, what is the difference between conceptual model and theoretical model? Sir, I've explained it. What if it's okay? So I got Kiran ma'am's question. What if it's a period research? What she means is, like, for example, who was this man with Deepika Padukone, that guy, Khilji. So in historical research, starting from this period to that period, they are called longitudinal research. In that case, of course, the reference can be more than 5 years. Even when I show you an SLR paper, what is a systematic literature review paper? We summarize the research of the past 20 years. And because we are summarizing for 20 years, yes, the references have to be older. Is this approach the same in engineering subjects, Mahesh sir? Depends on what sort of an engineering project you are taking. So in quantitative research, when you are driving correlations, chi-squares, structural equational modeling, yes, this is the same approach for engineering subjects. Can you tell me the chapter-wise overview of qualitative research? I cannot, ma'am, because in a qualitative research, we don't divide the paper or the PhD thesis into chapters. Okay, my research area is evolving and contested, so not much literature available. Ma'am, please take it up. And I'll come to a research design called exploration. Please go for that. I'm coming to that. How long should be review of literature? I think this is word limit. I think these are all which is it compulsory to write research and article in latex, or MS Word is enough? MS Word is enough. I've never written an article in latex. I've always written in Word. Right, so I have completed most of the questions. I'll come to the questions at 6 o'clock now. Okay, it's 5:10. So I'll just let me finish research design at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, I'll again come up with questions, right? So I move forward to a very interesting topic. The most interesting I like is research design, because it's the most complicated. And when I was doing my MBA, I understood nothing. With all due regards to my institute, I never understood what's the difference between exploratory, descriptive, and causal. Now I understand better. Teaching really teaches you quite a few things. A research design is a blueprint of research. When this typical phrase was told to me in MBA, I used to think for faculties, everything is, important only. Everything is a blueprint. But this is not so. This is actually true. It is on the basis of the research design that you define your research method. On the basis of the research method that you define the research analysis, data collection, conclusion, format of the paper, type of paper, conceptual, oblique SLR, oblique review, oblique quantitative, oblique explore, all that is defined on the basis of research design, and you'll see how. When I take you through, you'll come to know that if you don't know your research design, probably those 6 chapters, you can write only the first chapter, chapter number 1. After that, you can't write any chapter if you've not made a research design. And I'll tell you the common mistake which my students do, which is very, very funny, but fine, they are in their MBA the way I was. And now it seems funny when they ask me such questions. Exploratory research. You must have read it in books, but many a times it's not understandable from books. Exploration. Explore, find a new variable. Okay. I'll not come to these parameters. I'll come to this later on. First, I'll give you I'll give you an example. All the science graduates can actually, right now, of course, your cameras will be switched off, can all stand up and applaud yourself for the fact that all of you are assumed to be explorers. Okay. I'll tell you a story of a scientist. So Newton, poor thing, was sitting below the tree and an apple fell. So if it was me, I would have taken the apple and gone back home here. I would have come another day. Again, there would be an apple. I said, this is a good place. Yeah, I get free apples. I would have taken apples, gone back home, enjoyed eating them. But he was a person who was an explorer. He said, why? Why? We never questioned why. I am a purely non-explorer sort of a student, you know. So when my ma'am said in 7th standard, we developed from apes, I did not question her. I said, ma'am bol rahi hai, theek hi bol rahi hogi. I mean, she's saying she must be right only. Who's going to ask? Once you ask, she's going to tell 6 more things. Then you have to remember those 6 more things and they come in the exam. So it doesn't matter. Ma'am is saying she must be right. I never questioned. I should have questioned that, ma'am, if all of us came from apes, why didn't all the apes convert into humans? Why are there still apes on Earth? And if there was a selection of apes who got converted into humans, was there some power, some god, magical power that said, okay, tathastu to this set of apes, you develop into humans, and get lost, you set of apes, you remain apes? I never asked. I was a pure descriptor. Achha, ma'am said, we developed from apes, must have developed from apes, yeah. Forget it. Let's, mug up and give an exam and get 90% and get off this class. So exploration is when you ask a new thing. Why? Newtons, science students, the one person whom I really, the whole class used to get pissed off. Yeah, you also must be having such colleagues, where there's a meeting going on and they ask 10 questions and you want the meeting to end at 5 o'clock. They say, no, ma'am, we have one more question. They are the explorers. They are the exploratory research. Let me give you an example of a published. I've given you everyday examples with no offense to anyone. Let me give you a published example. This is an exploratory research, and I give the credit because these examples I have learned from faculty development programs. So I give the credit to Dr. Prabhakar, Aligarh Muslim University, whose FDP I was taking, and he explained me what is exploration with this example. He said, there was this one researcher who said, let's analyze what happens after death. Imagine the research question. You people are having dearth of topic. Look at this man. From where did he bring out a topic here? Imagine. Now, the biggest problem this man had was, of course, he did exploration. Very good. He's finding out a new variable. Very good. But whom will you go and ask? Dead bodies? What happened after death? So his very big problem in this exploration was, where do I get samples? So, as I said, research design identifies your data collection, further your analysis, if you don't have a research design, you'll not be able to do anything. He said, I want to go for an exploratory research design. So he went to some 25, mind you, the sample size of exploratory research is small because the variable is new. No one has ever worked on that variable. Obviously, you'll get a very small. If you get 200 samples, probably it's not a topic for exploration. It's not a topic for exploration. So he found out some 25 people from doctors throughout the world who had been declared dead, but they came back to life within a minute or so. So sometimes it happens in medical science also that you declare a patient dead, but he revives back to life. It's very, very rare. Very, very rare. But because this person wanted to study what happens after death, that was the only sample he could get. He got such people. He asked them. He said, what happened after death? Point number 2, open-ended questions. We are doing exploration. We are finding out the answer of why. I cannot tell him, listen, did you die or not? Tell me yes or no. Did you see God? Yes or no? How do you know he saw God? You're supposed to be finding out the new variable. Why are you imposing your variable on him? You were doing exploration with an open mind. Just ask him what he saw. Don't give him a standardized structured questionnaire. Did you see God? Yes or no? Tell me the probability of seeing God. Strongly agree to strongly disagree. Likert scale 7. Don't do that with him. You're doing exploration, you're finding out the new variable. Go to him, give him one sentence, let him talk for half an hour. Get data from him. Get textual, qualitative data from him, and then analyze that data. Analysis of a qualitative data is a different segment altogether, but get data from him. You speak less and he speaks more, and then get a new variable. So when he did this research, he found out that people saw God. Some fearful men saw their wives also after death. They didn't see God. Some saw their families. Some saw a flash of light. Some saw pitch darkness. And some said, we don't remember. He wrote down everything. He also analyzed the feeling they had when they saw this. They also analyzed that, was this real or not? What do they think? Was it real or not? And he summarized and he got a research paper published. Now, my problem in exploration is what is written in these slides. Exploration is a loosely defined report. Are we sure that after death we will all see our husbands and wives? We are not sure. I'm so dead sure I'll not see. But in other cases, are we sure? We are not. So information is loosely defined. You can't be sure that after that you're only going to see God. Number one. Number two, the research process in this sort of a research design is unstructured. I can't go and tell him, listen, tell me. No, you better tell me. Did you see God? No, strongly agree to strongly disagree. He says, please, I've just come out of death. You must have come out of death. I have to complete my PhD. Likert scale 11 point. Tell me whether you died or not. Yes and no, rank 1 to 11. With an exploratory research, you have to be unstructured. You have to be flexible. If I get time, I'll show you a transcript. When I come to the technique of personal interview, I'll show you a transcript of mine where I collected data, and this was a data of a 65-year-old lady, Indian lady. So I had to speak to her for half an hour. Okay. You would not believe it. I went with only 5 questions. Open-ended, 5 questions. After speaking to her and the way she spoke, I made another 10 questions then and there. Open-ended, flexible, unstructured data collection technique. Findings are tentative and need further research. Your research is not finished. There is somebody else who has to do a description on this, do a causal on this, and finish it off. Your report is not yet finished. Okay. Isolated key variables come out. Something new comes out. Okay, so there are variables, like in marketing, there's a new variable which is called frugality. I never heard of this 5 years back. But the person who took it out as in did an exploratory research and came out that there's something called frugality. That is a person who did exploration. Generally, exploration is done through qualitative techniques. Generally, I am quoting Malhotra and Dash that generally exploration is done through qualitative research, not through quantitative research. Okay, sorry. So this is exploratory research. There is a second type of research which we call conclusive research. Conclusive research has 2 types of research design. One is descriptive and one is causal. Okay. The characteristics of a conclusive research are just the opposite of exploration. Absolutely opposite. Structured questionnaire, hypothesis is set, pre-planned questionnaire, quantitative data, no new variable. There is a variable defined by someone, you are just describing it. Okay, so the biggest failure that I consider is when my student comes and says, ma'am, I'm going for exploratory research. I said, great. What are you going to do? Ma'am, I have this structured questionnaire survey. Please see this. I'm going for exploration with this. I said, hats off to you. If you can do it, just let me know. I'll write a paper on it. If exploration could be done with a structured questionnaire, do let me know, because none of the Gyanis, the Malhotra and Ash, etc. have written about them. Now, conclusive, descriptive research. Conclusive has two types of research design: descriptive, causal. Let me describe descriptive. When a faculty gets into a classroom, he starts description. He's not starting exploration. It's not that an alien has come and sit in his class and he's reporting, listen, an alien came to me today. If he reports that, he's doing exploration. They are normal people, normal variables, males, females, students with a height of this much, students with a height of this much, height, gender, demographics, culture, nationality. These are all supposed to be descriptive variables. They have been defined by somebody already. All you're doing is counting them in numbers, just describing them. So when a faculty gets into a class, he says, 50% of my class was males, 50% was females. This is description. When he says that 60% of my students were about 20 years and 40% was below 20 years, this is description. When he says that 50% of my students come in casual dresses and 50% come in formal wear, this is description. When he says that 30% of my students get marks above 70% in my subject, this is description. Description is describing a variable which somebody has already invented. You're not inventing a new variable, you're just describing it. That is what is description. Generally, it is quantitative. You all have done descriptive studies in standard 7, okay, 2-8. Okay, so there was a chapter by the name of data and analysis or data or statistics. I don't remember. So mean, median, mode, all of you remember, that is nothing but description. Okay. Further, if you are describing a data over a set of years, like ma'am just said, over a period of time, say 10 years or 20 years, etc., even that is description. These are called longitudinal studies. Okay, longitudinal studies are when we do a study over a period of time. It could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years. Okay, vis-a-vis that, when we are doing a study right there and finishing it off, say for example, I'm filling some 200 questionnaires from someone right today, within this week, within this month, it is called cross-sectional study. Okay, so in description, we have a longitudinal study and we have a cross-sectional study. Yeah, again, quantitative data, you can see numbers now. You can see numbers now. Comparisons between companies, between sales of companies, any sort of comparison is also descriptive. And then we come to something called causal. This is the third and final major type of research design. Here we describe the cause and effect relationship between two variables. I've given you an example in the paper: traffic and pollution, so on and so forth. What we do is we try and explain causal research by a technique called experimentation. Data collection technique is experimentation. Research method is experimentation. Now you'll just see while I'm speaking, I'm explaining to you a research design, defining a data collection technique, defining an analysis. Everything is going in line. So I tell my students that research is black and white. If you're doing exploration, you're doing qualitative research. If you're doing description, you're doing quantitative research. Says who? Malhotra and Dash 2018. Okay, and Kothari 2018. So cause and effect relationship is studied through experimentation. What is the experimentation? And there are statistical tools used in it, like there was a mean, median, mode in description. Here also there will be statistical tools. Hypothesis will be set over here also, like description, because both these are nothing but conclusive research reports. Conclusive. Okay, they are not like exploration, loose end. They are concrete reports. The findings of this report are concrete and they can be followed further. Examples of experimentation in causal research: for example, there are two set of students, educational, I'm talking about a research in the educational field. There are two set of students and they are giving their exam. One set of students is exposed to the variable. What is the variable I'm studying? I'm going to study the impact of distracting sounds on the test score of students. What are the two variables over here? Distracting sound, independent variable, test scores, dependent variable. Don't get into too much of complexity. If you don't know what is an independent, dependent, it's a very simple fundamental cause and effect. Okay, so distracting sound is the cause. Okay, and the effect is the test score. So when I say experimentation, I am going to work on two groups. One is supposed to be my experimental group to whom I expose to the variable, which is sound. The second is my control group. I am not going to expose these students to sound. I will get the scores of the experimental group. I will get the scores of the control group. I will do a correlation analysis or a t-test. A t-test is a statistical tool which is used for experimentation. I will do a t-test where I'll compare the scores of these two groups. If there is a variance in scores of these two groups, I will say my hypothesis is true. Sound distractions can impact test scores. But if the scores of the experimental group, the scores of the control group, judged by t-test, are coming to be similar, there is no variance, I will say that the hypothesis is not accepted or not supported. Right? So this is how a causal research takes place. Um, Causal research does not have to be only on two factors. For example, if my research objective is to study the impact of all factors which reduces stress, in that case, I can take more than two factors. So here you can see at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 factors which relieve stress: exercise, taking a nap, listening to music, meditating, playing with a pet. Okay, so if I want to assess the impact of all these 5 on stress, then also this research will be called conclusive and uh, causal. Conclusive and causal research design. And thus, how do I assess multivariate? Now, this is called multivariate, where you have more than one variables. Okay, in a multivariate research, uh, conclusive multivariate research, I use mathematical techniques like structural equational modeling, etc. I'll just introduce you to the same. This is an example of a causal research. I've shown you a model already. So each and every arrow is a cause-effect relationship. Each and every arrow has to be proven quantitatively for the cause-effect relationship. Okay, and this is what we call a model, a conceptual model. Okay, now I come to a second important point, data collection for each type of research design. Okay, so when do I say I'm going for a personal interview? When do I say I'm going for a structured survey? So you'll be surprised, when I completed my MBA, I thought the only way of getting data was the structured questionnaire survey. And I also did not know that whether it was exploration or whether it was description. As I said, and I repeat, research is black and white. It is actually black and white. There are no gray shades in research. So as per Malhotra and Dash, if you are doing an exploratory research design, these are the 6 methods which you will follow. I'm quoting Malhotra and Dash because wherein Malhotra and Dash, or I think Kothari sir's book, these are the 6 methods which are given. At the same time, in books like Saunders and Lewis, they say description can be done through qualitative data also. Okay, and exploration can be done through quantitative data also. So different books are saying different things. There are a few techniques which overlap exploration and description. Secondary data is one technique which can be used both in exploration and description. Case study is something which can be used both in exploration and description, but for the techniques listed on the slide, these are the techniques which you use for exploration. You all are, I think, by now very well versed by what is secondary data. I think that everybody understands what secondary data. I'll come to type of papers now. After I finish this, I'll come to type of papers, because when I talk of papers, I have to show you papers which use these techniques. Okay, so I have a few papers which are using these techniques. So when I say secondary data, so I think someone just mentioned review papers and SLR papers. Systematic literature review papers are papers where only secondary data is used for analysis. So I'll name the type of papers: review papers, systematic literature review papers, meta-analysis papers, bibliometric analysis papers. These four techniques, rather SLR, bibliometry, and meta-analysis, are becoming very famous nowadays. You see papers, and many people don't even know these techniques. So these techniques are becoming very, very famous. But the data that we collect for doing a research, which is a systematic literature review research, or which is a bibliometric research, or which is a meta-analysis research, we don't use primary data. We don't go to the respondent. We just analyze the research papers which have been done on those topics. Types of papers based on secondary data: focus group interview and personal interview. I hope all of you understand these techniques. Personal interview, when you're doing an interview one-to-one and collecting data. Focus group, when you have 8 to 10 people and you collect data. This is a data collection technique. The papers that you get are called content analysis paper, thematic analysis papers. Okay, so if you have a research topic which says content analysis of so and so variable with so and so variable, that is supposed to be applying a data collection technique of, say, personal interview or maybe focus group. Okay, so most of the type of papers which are written in this, although I'll show it to you, are primarily content analysis or thematic analysis or narrative analysis papers. Okay, so these are the categories which are there with this technique. Projective technique, let me tell you what is projective technique. So projective technique is a technique where we can't ask a question straight away to a sample. So we project his feelings on something else. So if I have to get into a company and ask the person that, is abusive supervision used here? Suppose I'm getting into a company and I'm asking the person, the employee, do you undergo abusive supervision? Now that's a very big question to ask. Very big question to ask directly. So what do? I use projective techniques. There are hundreds of projective techniques, but let me give you an example of one. I give him a sentence completion projective technique. I tell him to complete a sentence. And what is the sentence? Employees get tens when dash dash dash. Please complete this. Now here, because we are talking generally about employees, not particularly about him, at that point of time he may be able to project his feelings, beliefs, etc. More so, projective techniques are used in research, and this is all qualitative data. So this is a way of exploration, please. These are all ways of exploration. So in products like detergents, the fact that fragrance can make a difference, this was something which came out from projective techniques used by P&G company. Okay, so projective techniques, qualitative techniques, exploratory techniques, you're trying to get that hidden variable, new variable. From where are you going to get it? You're going to get it from a customer. And why do you say it is a hidden variable? Because if I ask him directly through a personal interview, are you having any problem with the bed you use? He'll say, no, I don't have any problem. But if I tell him getting all the winter wear into the storage cube of the bed, is it difficult or not? He will say it is difficult, and that is when I get problems which I can solve as a marketer. Projective techniques, qualitative, to find out the hidden beliefs of the sample. Case study. Now, this is the most commonly and the most wrongly used technique by researchers. According to Malhotra and Dash, it can be used for exploration, but there are papers, very strong papers, where they say that it can be used for description also. Okay, so if you are using it for exploration, get some references where authors have said that it can be used for exploration. If you're using it for descriptive study, get some references where it is written that case study is a good technique to be used in description. From my experience, I can say, be it exploration or be it description, you will get references of case studying being a good data technique for both types of research designs. So you will get authors. It's not that it is such a bizarre thing that you will not get an author. Case study. Let me tell you what is a case study. I'll show you paper 2, okay, and case study papers, research papers. This is an example of a man. Case study are studies which have only one sample. It might be sounding very shocking. I mean, on one place we are talking about descriptive techniques and causal techniques where we have a sample size of not less than 300. Then we spoke about exploratory techniques in which we spoke about personal interview where we can have 25. Now you are saying case study has only one sample. I'll explain this with an example. This is a story of Phineas Gage. The man you see on the left side is a man called Phineas Gage. And this is a published research I'm talking about. I can show you the research also, but all these are not melodramatic stories. They are published research reports. Phineas Gage was a person who used to work in a fire factory. And in an accident, a 3 mm diameter rod goes through his brain in the position that has been shown. Sorry for the visuals, but the essence of a case study is that it's one of its type and it should never have happened. Now, a person in this position, ideally what should happen, it's not that he was the first person through whom a rod went through. There were n number of people who had gone through these sorts of accidents, maybe something going through the skull or the brain. But most of the time what happens is 99.999% what should happen is that the man should be dead, ideally. Why Phineas Gage became a case study for a doctor called Dr. Harlow is because in this very position, this man walked to the hospital in a conscious state, spoke to the doctor, remembered his colleagues, narrated the incidents, and then said that, okay, he was asked, do you want to inform your family? He said, doesn't matter, don't inform. Anyways, I'll be out of the hospital in 2 to 3 days. A person with a rod crossed his brain was not dead, was in this position walking to a hospital, narrating. He had a perfect memory. He narrated the whole incidents. No motor skills disrupted, no memory skills disrupted. And then Dr. Harlow, who treated him for a few months, and he got cured. He went back to work. Dr. Harlow was an exploratory researcher. He did not leave this man. He followed him for somewhere around 7 years. For somewhere around 7 years after the surgery, Dr. Harlow followed him to wherever he worked. He wanted to find out that this damage of brain hasn't impacted something in him. And he followed him for 7 years. And he spoke to his colleagues. And the colleagues said there were no changes. They said there were no changes. He was perfect at work. He was perfect at speed. He was good at motor skills. He was good at memory. He got jobs. So if he got jobs means he was capable also. So nothing was lost. They just said one thing. This is a case study way back in 1848. This got published. So I'm talking about way back in 1848. Dr. Harlow published this case study of Phineas Gage. There is only one thing they said. They said his personality has changed. I'm talking of a time way back in 1848 when people used to think personality is your physical appearance. Personality has nothing to do with the brain. I'm talking of that time. So after 7 years of following this man, Dr. Harlow wrote in the Boston Medical Journal, He wrote 2 papers in 1948 again, sorry, 1848 again in 1868, 2 published papers on this man Phineas Gage, and he is the man who gave us this theory that brain is related to the personality, or brain can make an impact on the personality. So the colleague said that he was a very jovial person, very witty person. The colleagues named him as a jackass. Now, case study is a research method of exploration. Data can be collected through personal interviews. I repeat, case study is a research method of exploration, finding out that new variable, something which Dr. Harlow found out, that personality is related to the brain. The data can be collected through personal interviews, through focus group, through projective techniques. Maybe he could have projected some questions to Phineas Gage post the operation and got data and then concluded. So data collection techniques could be different, but the method is case study. The way I describe case study is that if Dr. Harlow would have waited for another man like this to come in his career, he wouldn't have got it. Forget Dr. Harlow. Any doctor on earth, I'm dead sure, hasn't come across such a case study and will never come across such a case study. There are people who, when I was just reading Dr. Harlow's papers, there are doctors who come across when the rod goes through a stomach and the person is alive. Yes, those case studies are there. But something going through the brain and the person perfectly walking to you, there's no such case study. So when I tell my students, my graduation students, in very simple terms, I tell them that if you go to the jungle and you see hundreds of monkeys jumping around, they are samples for personal interview. But if you see this one monkey with horns, he is a case study, in case you see it. So when it comes to the management domain, let me give you another example, which is there on the right side of the slide. The way Patsy rose, the way family succession brought it down, ruined the brand. It was a global brand and a brand of Indian origin, which was global pharmaceutical company. The way they came down, and this is a case study of a topic called family succession in entrepreneurship. It is a case study. It will never happen. A dynasty started by someone, ruined by the siblings, ruined to this extent that brands like Fortis, brands like Religare, brands like Ranbaxy are no more with them. They have been jailed for fraudulent activities. Look at the legacy. Ranbaxy was something. How did it decline? It's a perfect case study of separating ownership and management in family succession in entrepreneurship. But case study has one sample. It has never happened. It will never happen. That is what is a case study. If you find something like this, by the way, the whole Corona year is a case study. It has never happened. I mean, I have spoken to my forefathers, and they say the last they remember a very bad time in India was emergency or riots. And they say, even then, I don't remember having sitting at home for 1 year. This time is a case study. It is a case study. I hope it never comes. I hope we don't have another variant of the virus. But it's a case study for even our forefathers. They say in the worst of the times, I have not seen that for 3 months, the police will catch you if you go and get basic bread. I've never seen this, the lockdown time. This is a paper on case study. So I'll show you the paper also. There is something else called ethnography in exploratory research. This is generally done when we are studying a culture. Again, exploration. So here I quote an example of Dr. Bronislaw Malinowski. He invented this technique. He was the one who went to an island called Trobriand Islands. He stayed with these people for somewhere around 3 years. Ethnography is a study of culture, and you stay with the sample. Look at the methods of exploration. I think the methods of exploration are even more fascinating than description. And I go back to the question of Sir, that Do only quantitative papers get way to publications, or do only quantitative studies get a way to PhD? No, sir. These are all qualitative techniques that I'm talking about from the past half an hour. And they all are published papers. I'm just showing you published papers in very good journals. Okay. So ethnography is that we stay with the person. There are ethical concerns in this technique. Although I'm doing exploration and I could do a PI or an audio or a video, ideally, I don't tell the respondent sample that I am a researcher. I start living with the person. I don't tell him I'm a researcher, number one. Number two, when you record data, ethics does not allow you to write about their culture or their names. So you conceal the names and then make a research report. Okay. Number three, you don't get emotionally attached to them. Okay, here I would like to quote I don't remember the name of that doctor who was there in a movie called Munna Bhai MBBS. It was a very good Hindi movie, and I remember his one sentence, which he was right, by the way. Although the character of Sanjay Dutt was over exaggerated, but his professor said, "For me, these people are subjects. They are not human beings. They are subjects." So for a researcher, if you're going for ethnography and living with a subject for somewhere around 3 years, please remember they are subjects. You are there to get data about their culture, data for exploration, to get that new variable which nobody has come across right now, and get it through qualitative techniques. Further, when we go to descriptive research, what are the techniques we can use? In descriptive and causal study, we use three types of technique. This is where a survey questionnaire comes. I don't think I need to explain it too much. You all know it. Dichotomous questions, yes and no. Multiple choice questions. Likert scale questions, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, strongly agree to strongly disagree, so on and so forth. Because it's descriptive research design tool, it is structured, it is the same. The sample size is minimum 250. Minimum 250. So if a student comes to me even at graduation level and says, "Ma'am, I couldn't get a data of 250," I do not accept his report. I know I'm a very cruel researcher, but then when I know the fundamentals, I try and apply them to the best of my knowledge. So 250, a huge sample size needed in description. This is one method. Observation. So I just told you about the monkeys jumping in the jungle. So if you see a monkey jumping in the jungle in their natural forms, it is called naturalistic observation. If you bring the monkey to the lab and try and see how he behaves, what he eats, what vaccines can be given to him, it becomes lab observation. Observation is a technique which is again a matter of debate, that whether it can be used only for description or can it also be used for exploration. Okay, I'll give you an example of observation technique of data collection being used in exploratory research. Nowadays we marketers are just at the back of the customer. So when he enters a retail shop and he sees a window display of red color, we have fitted cameras over there which can detect his pupil size, his eye pupil, whether it gets dilated or whether it gets enlarged. On the basis of that, we actually find out new variables. So we could do a exploratory study with observation also. There is proof, there are authors. But again, as I'm going according to Malhotra and Dash, an observation is a technique used only and only for description, not even for causal. Okay, so I'm going by the books. And then, of course, there is experimentation. I think causal research, I have explained to a very large extent. I'm just explaining the managerial implications of this. So there are quite a few in psychology. There are quite a few theories like the Pavlov learning theory, conditional learning theories, which really reiterate the point that there is something called a causal relationship. But how do the managers take advantage of this? Or if I write a research on cause effect, how can the managers apply it? This is an example of this. So Coke in its ad started showing Santa Claus. Okay, it associated Santa Claus to Coca-Cola. There were repetitive ads, and there was this memory that whenever you see a Coca-Cola, you remember a Santa Claus. Because you remember a Santa Claus, you remember happiness. So Coke is associated to happiness. Otherwise, a Coke can is associated to nothing, neither happiness nor. But the bringing in of this variable called Santa Claus associated Coke with happiness. Now, I want to do an experimentation to see whether this is true or not. So, what will I do? I will take a control group to whom I will not expose to the ad of Santa Claus. I will take an experimental group or treatment group to whom I will expose to Santa Claus, and then I'll see which of the two groups are giving me a better sales of the brand Coca Cola. This is how experimentation generally is used in sciences, but it can be used in psychology, it can be used in management, it can be used um, art domains also. So sociology, anthropology, many experiments are now being done on the subjects. Right, so yeah, so this is about the major research designs, and I have to now quickly show you the type of papers. So let me go to, okay, I showed you a conceptual paper, I showed you a quantitative paper. Let me show you a paper on meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is a new technique which is coming up. It is purely descriptive or causal. Okay, so it is not exploratory. And it is a technique which uses secondary data. So a meta-analysis paper is an example of a paper which is based on secondary data, and it is descriptive. So I told you that secondary data is a technique which can be used in exploration as well as description. So here in meta-analysis technique, what we do is we pull out some 40 papers, okay, secondary data papers, analyze their results, and find out a conclusion. We don't go to a single sample for interview, not even for interview or for survey. We just don't go to the sample. Okay. Um, there are other technique papers also, which are, for example, I have a sample of a projective technique. I told you. Okay, the title of the paper might not always say projective technique, although I was lucky enough to get some. I will be sending you all these papers. Okay, so this is an understanding of perception and beliefs about different types of fermented milks through an application of projective techniques. Okay, so, and also somebody spoke about somebody also spoke about mixed methods. Okay, mixed methods are when you are using two techniques. Okay, you're using qualitative as well as quantitative. Most of the PhD scholars nowadays are being suggested mixed methods. How? They are being told that first you go for a personal interview, find out a new variable, then for the same very variable which you have found out in your PhD, go for description or causal relationship. That is what we call a mixed approach. Nowadays, PhD scholars are trying to do both the techniques. Okay, so PhD is no more only the quantitative technique, although there are some very funny cases which come to me and say, when I ask them what's the topic, they say, ma'am, there is no topic. Just give me any topic where I can apply structural equational modeling. So then I tell them what is the topic, but according to the topic, you decide a research design. From the research design, no, ma'am, that I don't know, that you know better. I want to apply structural equational modeling. You give me a topic for that. So, they finally, they start the PhD thesis from chapter number 4, finding and analysis upwards. And the last thing they do is write a research objective when they are finishing their PhD. So please don't do that. There's a sequence of events. Okay, so I've just ended this. I'll be sending you all types of papers, and you can see it. There are case study papers, projective technique papers, meta-analysis, systematic literature review, basic review. Then there are quantitative papers. I'll send you all the papers. You can have a look at it. I have a sample of each. Now I'm going to questions quickly because it's already about 6. If you want to do a research on a topic which has never been touched, I mean, no data available, then will it be exploratory? Definitely, Dr. Shika, it will be exploratory. It will be exploratory. Ma'am, please provide an example of a research paper on review of literature. I didn't show you an SLR paper. I'll show it to you. Please remind me. I'll show you an SLR paper. Which is the best method in law field for research design, sir? Any field that you go to, research, law, medicine, science, all these three techniques are applicable. There is no bias. There is no, I have described you what I've seen in books. None of the books say that in legal studies use only exploration. This is not written in any book. Please share a review paper. I will. What is the difference between in-depth interview and case study? Um, Sabiha ma'am, I just explained. Yeah, I answered the above. Yeah. Many making questionnaire is most challenging issue for researchers. Yes. So, sir, Vidya, sir, you'll have to consult your guide for that. Ma'am, please explain in short, simple methods of formation of research hypothesis. There is no method of finding hypothesis, sir. The moment you read papers, when you're reading those 100 papers, you will come across many variables, one which impact the other. So when you come across such variables, you can form a hypothesis. So if you get at least two authors who are saying that this variable impacts this, take it as a hypothesis. It will only come through the study of secondary data. How to develop research topic for research? In educational technology, sir, very difficult to answer. Study at least 100 papers in education technology and then ask this question to yourself. Can we mix exploratory causal effect? Yes, Dr. Shika, have answered that. You can. You can. Can you apply questionnaire as well as empirical method? Amal sir, empirical method means going and collecting primary data. It could be through a questionnaire, it could be through an interview also. Okay, so I think I've finished the questions. Are there any ones open? That's it. I think I've finished the questions. Okay, and let me. Sorry?
There are a few questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm just coming to the chat box. Just a second. Yeah, Dr. Virus, yes. Is there any book in which there's little more detail about experimental research? Mrs. Sandhya, please go through Malhotra and Dash. Go through Saunders and Lewis. Please go through the right now. If you are attending an FTP of Introduction to Research Techniques, I would want you to study books which have all techniques. Later on, when you study each of them, then I would want you to go to a super specialization like qualitative research by Creswell. So Dr. Creswell has written only about qualitative research, but I don't want you to go to super specialized books. Please read Malhotra and Dash 2018, Kothari sir's book 2018, Saunders and Lewis 2019-20, whichever idle. Please read those. It has all the techniques. Okay. What else is there? If hypothesis and assumption are same, then how to put hypothesis in a statement, because assumption we put in a listed form. Sir, I just showed you a paper. I just showed you a research paper where a hypothesis was stated. When we state a hypothesis, we either state an alternate hypothesis or a null hypothesis. So null means N means no, which means there's no relation. Alternate means a positive relationship, which means there is a relationship. So that's how we state a hypothesis. Some tips on how to do literature review. Just study. I mean, how to research on a famous personality focused on one aspect. I think I answered that. Kindly write your doubts. I don't see any other question, ma'am. Do you see any other question?
That's it, ma'am.
Yeah. So if anybody does have any other questions, where to start a research paper? That's a very difficult question, Rahul sir. Introduction and novelty. Start a research paper from a topic which you find with a lot of difficulty. Where you find 2-3 papers, start that research. Okay. How to reach advanced mixed research method I've explained. Yeah, so uh, I've answered all the questions. Any further questions? Somebody asked me um, SLR paper, review paper. So give me a minute. I'll show it to you. SLR paper is very, very important, systematic literature review. I'll just explain the paper also. Um, and you'll see that, yeah, so, yes. Okay, so I'm just sharing with you a paper. This is a systematic literature review paper, which has been done on a topic of green marketing. And where's the paper? Just a second. Seem to be too many windows open. Give me a minute. Okay, yeah. So green marketing. Share. Yeah. So this is the paper. Okay, it says green marketing and analysis of definitions, strategies, tools, etc., done through a systematic review of literature. So what has this person tried to do? This person has tried to list it the definitions of green marketing in the past 20 years of research. So what did he do? He got hold of all the marketing papers. Okay, he wanted to do marketing strategies and definitions of green marketing. He got hold of all the marketing papers on the topic and he summarized them. That is what is called a systematic literature review. Introduction chapter, absolutely same. Look at the three database he has used. He has used Scopus, Web of Science, EBSCO. You could use some other database also. Look at his research questions. They say, I wanted to find out the main definitions of green marketing. I wanted to find out what are the basic green marketing strategies that the past literature has studied. These were his research questions. He further goes to the keywords that he studied. So table number 2 shows that he searched these secondary data papers from keywords like green marketing, environmental marketing, eco marketing, so on and so forth. He describes the number of papers he got for each of the keyword in EBSCO, Scopus, Web of Science. He further goes and explains that 114 papers were found, out of which so and so paper fell from so and so journal. He's listed that, he summarized that. He has also made us understand that from 1993, that he found his first paper, to 2016, when he stopped finding papers, because this is a research paper of this is, by the way, a research paper of an A+ grade, A star journal called Journal of Cleaner Production. It has a very high impact factor, I think 7 point something. And this is the latest research of 2017, so it's not very old. So from 1993 to 2016, he studied papers. He's made a basic graph of how the studies were very, very minuscule in 1993, but they soar in 2012, and then now they have again come down. So he's made a chart of that. Because he was learning only the marketing strategy papers, he has categorized those papers found from 1993 to 2017 into the topics in which they were studied. Now, when he says that I was only dealing with marketing concepts, there is a point in the research where he has said that I took this reference of marketing strategies. What comes into marketing strategies? So price, promotion, segmentation, these all come into marketing strategies. You have to give a proof of that also. And the proof of that was given by him by referring to Philip Kotler. So he referred to Kotler and said, Kotler says these things come in marketing. So I restricted myself to green marketing papers only studying these marketing strategies. He has shown which paper has how much impact. For example, papers done on the place of the product have the minimalistic numbers. There were hundreds of papers done on green marketing mix. He has listed that. Okay. Further, he has listed the major definitions that he found out. He starts chronologically. He goes to 1976 to 1995 to 2013 to 2014. He's trying to tell you how the definition of green marketing changed over a period of time. Okay, so these are the major findings of his papers. Now, this is a systematic literature review paper. Anybody who's in their first year of PhD, all of you can write such a paper. This is not a basic review paper, it is a systematic literature review, because in a systematic literature review, you describe the trends of the past literature. And in an SLR paper, which is very famous nowadays nobody writes review papers, people write SLR paper. In an SLR paper, you need no knowledge of statistical techniques. So this is one type of paper which I suggest my PhD scholars year one to definitely write. So this is an example of a SLR paper. I'll be sending you these. Any further questions? Okay, one more question. Analysis of a country's method of working is a case study. Yes, Ankita ma'am. So I'll give you an example. In one of my FDPs, there was an ex-faculty of IMI Delhi. He's now in IIM Trichy, Dr. Sajid Pradhan. He works in the domain of human resource, and he said that I work on abusive supervision. And he also said that I'm working on abusive supervision only in India. Abusive supervision is something which is not found in many countries. So if you're taking India, it becomes a case study. How do we find gaps? Ashita Goel ma'am, take your topic, study at least 100 papers, and then come back and ask this question. Okay, SLR paper, Ankita ma'am, I've shown you. If relationship between two variables is already defined by past, how can I make it a hypothesis? Rahul's a very good question. It is possible that the relationship between two variables has been studied in Europe. It might not be the same case in India. So when you're replicating the study to India, it becomes a gap. If the study has happened on normal products, for example, everybody knows that in economics, there is this law of demand, which says that as and when price increases, the quantity of sales decreases. It's a very normal economics law studied by graduates also. This law has been proven, the cause effect impact of price and quality has been proven by many research in normal products. But when it comes to sustainable products, this cause impact is not true. To write that it's not true, somebody will have to do the research on these two variables whose cause effect has been found on other products but never been done on sustainable products. So this is where a hypothesis which has been proven by other researchers can be taken in by you. If you are researching another industry, you're researching another country, definitely it can be done. What techniques to apply in analyzing qualitative research? Dachan sir, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry, but I in exploratory, I discussed several techniques in qualitative research: ethnography, personal interview, content analysis, focus group interview, projective techniques, case studies, secondary data. These were all qualitative and exploratory. Ma'am, how can you share the link of exploratory research of Dr. Harlow? Shika ma'am, you can Google it. Phineas Gage is a very, very famous study. You can Google it. I think you'll get it. Ma'am, if somebody has already found correlation in variables, then what is the need? I explained that, Mohit sir. Change the industry, change the country, change the product, redo the research. This is a gap. Yeah, thank you, Ravinder ma'am, for that compliment. Please throw light on how to do concept maps. Ma'am, concept map is qualitative research analysis. It's very, very, it's concept mapping tools is a different FTP altogether. So right now for an FTP of introduction of research method, I think concept mapping is a little too technical. How can search and identify research work in science done using exploratory and cause and effect method? Oh, there are a lot in science, ma'am. For example, we are trying to find out the impact on COVID, impact of the COVID vaccine on side effects. The whole world is doing it. The whole world is doing it. And look at it, we the Indians are supposed to be probably the most strongest. I mean, we have the minimalistic impact of the COVID, where it's impacted a lot throughout the world. I think Indians have a very, very strong body. Even COVID hasn't impacted to that extent, and so hasn't the vaccine. Can you do a research on a topic done by many times earlier but give it a new perspective? Yes, Nivedita, you can do that. Okay, role of social media in research analysis. Okay, Dr. Swati, there's a technique called sentiment analysis in the analysis of qualitative research that is done through social media. Okay, so that is what you can do. There are papers also only on sentiment analysis. Okay, how many papers should we take in SLR? Ashita ma'am, this person took 114. Anything less than 100 is a crime. Right? Yeah, so I think I quite answered all the questions. Nothing on the chat. Right. Thanks for all the compliments, and I think I've covered all the questions. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You've covered all the doubts, even the ones that were not really asked, but you managed to answer everything.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a great session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I can leave?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Thank you so much. I see you again now on 9th, if I'm not wrong, 9th and 10th, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
For a wonderful session, and we are grateful that you accepted our invitation.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm honored. Thank you.
Yes, Anshita ma'am, please go ahead with the details.
Right. A very good evening, everyone. So after this enriching session, I would like to just update you with some details. So the next session is going to be on SPSS. So we are going to share the files that are going to be required for the tomorrow's session with you on your registered emails. You'll be receiving those files by the end of day. And also you'll be receiving a guide as to how to install SPSS trial version into your systems. And for the ones who can install it on your own, you can do it. And the ones who face any difficulty in installing the SPSS, 30 minutes prior to starting the session tomorrow. So that means 2:30 p.m. tomorrow, we are going to have a session to explain you the installation of SPSS. That's going to be taken by our technical team, and it's completely voluntary. So the ones who experience any problems in downloading the trial version can start the session at 2:30, can start attending the session at 2:30. Is there anything that you want to ask about how to attend tomorrow's session, or are there any other technical questions? I think we are good then.
So I mean, tomorrow the session will start at 2:30.
Yes, sir. So at 2:30 we are going to give instructions as to installing SPSS. So it's voluntary. The ones who wish to attend that session can attend that session.
Right.
The session on SPSS by Sangeeta ma'am will start at 3 o'clock. We'll be sending you the installation key on WhatsApp and mail, and the files that will be required for tomorrow's session by the end of today. And then if there's any issue, then we are available at 2:30 as well. That is voluntary. 2:30 to 3 p.m. is voluntary.
But participants are requested to join, because otherwise unnecessarily you will involve uploading their SPSS, installing SPSS. It will take much time.
Right.
So all participants are requested to join tomorrow by 2:30 p.m. latest. As a result, our technical team, Dr. Neeraj, Dr. Karman, they will help you in installing SPSS and how to install the SPSS in your system, at least trial version, right?
Right, sir.
Sanchita ma'am, there are some questions in the
Neeraj
Q&A.
Karman, would you like to give some? Would you like to address something?
No, sir. We will share the guide on how to install the SPSS by today. So if specific queries come, then we will handle tomorrow, sir. So because many participants have not downloaded the SPSS.
And Karman?
Yes, sir. So for all the participants for tomorrow's session, we do need SPSS. It's a lot more handy if you have SPSS beforehand. So for the same, as we have already told you, that we'll be sending you the key today for your own installation. If that does not help, then tomorrow at 2:30, kindly join so that any problem, anything with installation of the SPS can be sorted before the start of the session. So we would request you all to kindly join by 2:30 so that software installation can be done beforehand.
Thank you.
I would like to answer these questions that we have received in the Q&A. So yes, you will be receiving the Zoom link again. So for the tomorrow's session, you're going to receive a link again that you will be using to attend the tomorrow's session. And SPSS stands for Statistical Package for Social Sciences. So it's a research tool that you can use to that you can use in your research. And we are going to give you an introductory session on this so that you can use it for your own research. And there are both versions of it. You can use it for your Windows and you can use it in your Mac as well. So there'll be instructions sent to you for installing it in Mac also and for Windows also. And tomorrow also we are going to help you with the installation. If you experience any problems in installing SPSS, the tomorrow's 2:30 session is for the same. And yes, the ones who are doing it in the flexible mode, you can install the SPSS in your system and you can do the exercises if they are required to be done at a later stage. You can watch the videos later, the ones who are doing it in the flexible mode. So the ones who are doing it in the flexible mode, we would suggest if it's possible for you to join the live session, it's going to be good for you only. You'll be able to ask your doubts and everything, but there's no compulsion. You can do it later as per your convenience.
So
we'll be sharing the feedback.
Sanchita, just explain how you will send the feedback form to each of the participants, how they will form, what extent it is compulsory or not, what about the project, quiz. Upasana, Sanchita, address this.
Right. So regarding the feedback form, we'll be sending you a feedback form for the sessions every day. So there are 5 sessions. We'll be sending you a feedback form for every day. We'll be sharing it on the WhatsApp group that has been formed. And for the ones who are not on the WhatsApp group, there'll be options given to you to fill the feedback form at a later stage also. Let's say you can fill the feedback form for today, 4th of March, at a later on a later day as well. And regarding the assessments, we will be taking a detailed session as to how you will be assessed for this FDP. There'll be some mandatory quizzes. There'll be some feedback videos that you'll have to upload. So regarding the assessment, we are going to take a session. It's going to be either taken tomorrow or day after, or the next day after tomorrow's.
Yes, yes.
We are going to be helping you with everything as to the technical aspects of it. So where will you get the assignments? How are you going to submit those assignments? What is the assessment format? What is the marking scheme? How much marks for attendance? We are going to explain each and every part of it in a separate session. We are going to inform you soon as to when are we going to plan that session.
Thank you, Sanchita.
Thank you, sir. Just another question. We'll be sharing the material with you on your, we'll ensure that the material that has been used by the speaker today reaches you all. We'll ensure that.
Anything you would like to share, Karman, Neeraj, regarding tomorrow's session?
Yes, sir. Sir, about SPSS, as Sanchita has already told, that it's a software, it is statistical software, and it is useful for everyone. Anybody who is starting with the research or is in the primary stage of the research, especially using primary data, should get a hands-on on learning the SPSS software. It's a very useful software, very handy to use, and its results and its algorithm in the background is very suitable. So its results are very compatible, and you can use it for for your future research as well. So my urge would be that definitely go for learning for the SPSS, and hope our session helps you the best in understanding and learning it.
And one more request to the participant, please join tomorrow's session on time, because once after the basics are covered, it will be difficult for you to just come at the same level. So it's a humble request to all the participants, please join tomorrow's session on time.
And Niraj, this thing you also post in the group, FDP group.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And our team will take a doubt clearing session day after tomorrow. Right?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir.
Good.
Also, one more thing, we are very much aware that we have participants from all the from different disciplines. So this is not for the tomorrow session and the day after tomorrow session, which is based on SPSS, is not designed to help just a few disciplines. It is going to be designed, and it is designed taking in consideration that we have participants from the different disciplines. So we'll be making all the efforts to make you comfortable understanding this tool. So we request you all to join us tomorrow with great enthusiasm and learn something new. In case you are not well versed with the SPSS thing, it's going to be new, but it's going to be enjoyable to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's wind up the session. You would like to speak something else?
We are
Anything? Karman, Niraj?
Yes, sir, I think we have talked about today's session and tomorrow's session in detail. I hope there isn't any doubt with any participant. If you have any, please reach out to us on the WhatsApp group or on the email, wherever comfortable. So we are on reach whenever you have doubt. So kindly just contact us for any query, any time that you would have.
Right.
Looking forward to meeting everyone for tomorrow's session.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Karman. Thanks to all my colleagues and participants. Let's formally we are wind up the session today. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening ahead.
So we'll close the session today.
Yes. Thank you. Ganesh,
you.
thank you. Tomorrow I will be here by 2:30.
Yes, sir. Sure. I'll be there.
Okay. Sir, are we doing the trial run with Sangeeta, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Mohit is on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So we are doing a trial run, so we'll request you to join on that as well.
Okay. Today you will have trial run.
So for the tomorrow session, Dr. Sangeeta wants a trial run. So we are shifting
Today.
हाँ जी सर, अभी करना है सर.
कर दो.
हाँ जी सर.
Then Niraj, don't go away.
So we have to
Niraj,
join.
Karman, they should be here. Na? Tomorrow they will handle this. Na?
So we'll be joining on a different link now.
Just you try. You should. You all try. You, Sanchita and Karman and Niraj. Just go for a trial run. Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Upasana also joining with us.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.